5:30 meeting. This is a special meeting. 1 second. Very exciting evening tonight. 6 o'clock. 6:07. We want to get going. This is the referendum presentation. It's Monday, June 21st, 2021. So we have, as folks will know, we're having potential referendums in November. We welcome our staff. Turn it over to bring up Donald, or
No.
Mike, I'm joining the meeting.
oh, welcome. Yes, for the record, Deputy Mayor Suzak is joining the meeting. It's a continuation from our 5:30 meeting downstairs.
We've divvied this up, Mr. Mayor, into 4 portions. Donna will be presenting on the roofs. JP and John will be coming up to present on the roads. I'll just give a little overview. Staff has worked very hard on this presentation. As you know, we gave sort of a preliminary outline at the last meeting. At this meeting, this is a full hour, well, with questions, presentation to the council and our folks at home, and it will be on our website, and it's in greater detail. But in addition to this, they've done a lot of work on roads and roofs, and there are much longer, more detailed presentations that will be also on our website. So people who would like to delve in a little further, there's a lot more information there. But for purposes of tonight, because we've done the road referendum so many times in the past, the need for an education portion of it is still crucial, but I think people have become inured and accustomed to these 5-year road referendums. Likewise with the roof, it's for a smaller portion. The 2 newer questions that we're going to be presenting is one is on the recreation referendum question we're hopeful that council will review, and then one on the newest with new information on the public safety complex. And I'll give a little summary at the end in regard to that one, which is a little unique. But now that Mr. Bosco has arrived, we can proceed without... Well, you're integral to this, so we wanted you to be present. So with that, I give you JP and John. They'll identify themselves and their job titles, and they will do the first presentation on Roads 2021.
Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Bronson, and hello, council members. My name is JP Rodriguez. I'm with the Town of Enfield Engineering Office. With me here today, I got John Cabibo, the Assistant Town Engineer. We're going to present to you the roads 2021. We're going to be touching on 3 subjects, which are the history of the program, the methodology that was used to develop the program, and the program itself. During the last 20 years, the town of Enfield has done a tremendous job in reconstructing its roads. A total of 136 miles of roads have been reconstructed or rehabilitated at a cost of $133 million. This is a big number, 136 miles of roads during the last 20 years. On the next slides, you can appreciate the amount of work that has been done by the town. This is the roads year 2000. All the roads highlighted in red were addressed during this period. Then the roads 2000 and 2005, now we have the red and the yellow combined on this map. The roads 2005 wasn't as big of a program, but still effective. Now this is the roads 2000, 2005, and 2010. This is 15 years of work. The ones in green, those are the 2010. That was a big program back then. And then the biggest one was 6 years ago, the 2015 program. On this slide, you can see all the work that has been done here in town. I think it's been a great success. A lot of work has been done and a lot of good, repairing the road system here in the town of Enfield. We also, the roads, they have a 20-year span, and they start to develop cracks. This needs to be addressed because we don't want water to penetrate and damage the road base. So we also have a maintenance program going on. We did it back in 2016, the streets in green there, and then we had again a program back in 2020, the ones in red, and we have a program this year where we're going to address about 10 miles of roads in the maintenance program. That's what we call it. With that being said, I turn it over to John, and he's going to talk about the methodology that we use to develop the program.
Thank you, JP. Again, I'm John Cabibbo, your Assistant Town Engineer. When we start looking at these programs, we start with a road condition survey. We have a pavement consultant that we've been working with since 1999. The last time they did a full road survey where they looked at every street in town was 2018, and we work with them. They also have a program where we can input the amount of funds that we're looking to spend over a certain period of time, and they give us a recommended program, and their programs are recommended on the road conditions themselves and keeping the road condition up. We also, during the 5-year period, we maintain a complaint list, and they're from a number of different sources, from residents, councilmen, council people. So we have the complaint list that we use. When we talked with the Director of Public Works and DPW subcommittee, there were certain things that we wanted to look at. One of them was completing neighborhoods. You saw on those maps, we have done a lot of roads in a lot of areas, but there are a few areas that we've done most of the roads, but there's a few roads we haven't touched on. So we were looking at completing those. And also in other street areas that we haven't touched, we didn't want to do that piecemeal. We wanted to do entire neighborhoods. So that was one of the other considerations that we made. One of the other points of direction that we received from DPW subcommittee was looking at some of the worst roads, the roads that are below a 60 PCI. PCI is a rating, 100 being a brand new road, and 0 being it's crumbled. It's basically a gravel road. So we looked at those streets that were from 0 to 60. Like JP hit on the preventive maintenance or the crack sealing program, we're continuing with that, and like you said, we have one lined up for this year. So that's all part and parcel to keeping up with these roads. It's not always reconstruct or overlay. So we need to keep up with that, and we're moving in that direction. The other point of direction that we received from DPW subcommittee is always looking at the most cost-effective design alternatives. If we could do it less expensive, then we're going to do it. If the roads that we have, we can reuse the material. If we can reclaim it and reuse it, we're going to. We're going to try and stretch these dollars as far as we possibly can, as we have been through the program. A couple other considerations that we take into account is the Complete Streets policy. It's a policy the council passed several years ago, and really the gist of it is to look at every mode of transportation. It's not just about the vehicles, but it's about pedestrians and cyclists. So when we go into neighborhoods, if there's sidewalks in the neighborhoods and they're in bad condition, we're replacing them under this referendum. Bicycle access, you may be aware on Post Office Road and on Town Farm Road and Fletcher Road, we have a bike path or bike lanes, if you will, to give a little more safety for the cyclists. So those are some design considerations that we make. Another one is MS4 is a state drainage permit that the town has to maintain. And they have certain requirements, and their requirements are more about drainage. So when we're looking at drainage design for these roads, there's a few things that we need to look at. One of the items is curbing. If we have roads that we're redoing that do not presently have curbing, we won't be looking to add new curbing. The state wants us to look at having sheet flow as opposed to putting everything into catch basins and pipes and having concentrated outlets. One of the other things they're looking for is reducing the amount of pavement we have and doing that by narrowing the widths of roads that we can. And we can do that on some roads. We have roads in town that we have done that the older section of the road was built in the 50s and it was narrower, and the newer sections say it was built in the 70s or 80s is a wider section, and we can narrow those down and reduce the amount of pavement so that we're reducing the amount of runoff from these, and that's all parcel to the MS4 permit with the state. One of the other big considerations that we do is the public utilities, including our own sanitary sewers. Any utilities that are underground, sewers, water, and gas, we coordinate with these utilities on these projects so that we don't get into a situation. We're going to minimize the chances that we rebuild a road, we get new pavement, and then the utility has to go in and replace their facilities and cut the road up again. So we try to coordinate with them, and they work with us, and a lot of that comes down to scheduling. We'll give them a list of streets, and they may have things planned that they're going to do, and then we can adjust our schedules. We may push roads later in the program in later years, so give them an opportunity to get in and do their thing. And finally, as always, we're always looking for alternate funding sources to help to pay for these items, and we have done that in the past. I mean, one example was we had Freshwater Boulevard. We had a lot of work done there, and that was with state and federal funds. So we'll always be looking for alternate funding sources to augment the referendum itself. With that, I'm going to turn it back over to JP. Finish
All right,
up.
thank you, John. Okay, so here we have the street list, the proposed street list for rehabilitation for the next 2 slides. The first column is the name of the streets. They're listed in alphabetical order, and then you got the from and to. Those are the limits. Then we got the PCI, like John said. A lot of these roads, they have a real low PCI, so we are forecasting that most of them probably they need to be reconstructed, totally rehabilitated. They're in really bad conditions. We have a few mills and overlays, but from the PCI number, we know they're in bad shape. The highlighted in blue are the streets that the engineering office is recommended that we do, and the rest of the streets, they're, like John pointed out, they're from the complaint list or the streets that came out of the pavement software program.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. So the total amount, we're looking at $30.5 million. The 0.5 comes out of if you can back up one slide, please. I forgot to mention the first row on the list is a sidewalk program. It's we got about 6,000 feet of sidewalk that is bituminous sidewalk. It's in really bad condition. It's a tripping hazard, and it should be replaced. So that we got that number there, 645,000 to replace those 6,000 feet of walks. So the total for the construction cost, and this includes the design, the construction of the project, the inspection, and the police, because we need to call the police if we're doing these roads in arterials or collectors, and it comes out at $29.9 million. Then we got the finance cost and the management cost, so the total is $30.565 on the proposed program. Now, this is the map highlighted in purple. These are all the streets that we're going to be rehabilitating. As you can see, we're pretty much going all over town. We're trying to complete neighborhoods or finish up small streets or areas that they haven't been touched in the last 20 years. So even though a lot of these streets are small, like in the Thompsonville area, if we don't add those streets, due to their PCI, they will never get picked into the program. I mean, we'll never hit them if we don't do it this way. This is a very, very preliminary construction schedule, but we need to start someplace. Like John pointed out, water mains, gas mains, and other utilities underground. If they're in bad condition, they need to be replaced before we do the road. We don't want to do a road and then boom, 1 year later the water main breaks. So like right now, I'm doing work on Peace Street. We're reconstructing the road, and we have to wait now for the gas company. We just found out the gas main is too shallow, and they're replacing that main. That is costing us about 1 or 2 weeks or delay waiting for them. But it is good that they're doing it now before we pave. So like I said before, this is very preliminary, but it's a starting point to get the schedule going. And this is the mapping of the schedule that we just saw. This is per year. The blue will be 2022, then the pink 2023, the red will be 2024, green 2025, and then the gray will be 2026. And this is very preliminary, but it's a starting point to start working on the schedule for the roads.
And I would ask that we hold questions, Mayor, to the end so we get through all the presentations. Then staff will stay, and if there are any other questions we can answer, we will. And if anybody has questions they think about after, you can email me, and we'll get them answered after tonight. Thank you, gentlemen, for a very thorough presentation. Now, Mr. Nunes, he will present on the roofs 2021. Mr. Jeff Lenowitz has been very, very involved in this, but he is on vacation this week, so.
Yes, Jeffrey is luxuriating in sunny Florida right now, so lucky him. Good evening, everyone. Donald Nunes, Director of Public Works. So our current roof replacement strategy is funding a typical elementary school project at pre-referendum limits for about 3 years through CIP. So essentially what we're requesting every year for 3 years is about $680,000 through CIP just to get done with one phase of one section of that particular school. Because it takes 3 years or so to complete a roof in this fashion, each phase purchases less roof from inflationary cost adjustments, supply chain issues, which we're having now, and material shortages, which is another huge factor that we're coming up with right now. DPW has performed an expense analysis from FY 2016 until June 1st of this year, and we have found out that we have expensed, on average, $77,000 per year to fix leaks on our failing roofs. Now, the graphic is simple, but it really kind of tells the story of what happens there. That $77,000 does not include soft costs, such as the actual leak damage that it performed, such as interior ceilings, the lighting fixtures, cleaning and drying carpeting, repairing alarm systems, B&G time, and custodial time. It does not include that, but that 77 is just given to our roofing contractors. Now, the current status of the 25 roofs that we inventoried, we have 2 that are in excellent condition that are showing no visible defects or are near new. We have 4 that are in good condition, and those are still, the repairs are still a cost-effective method to maintain it and to keep going forward. We have 5 in the fair condition, which are approaching the end of their useful life, and repairs are imminent, if not already overdue. And unfortunately, the last graphic, we have 14 roofs that are in poor condition, which are critically damaged and are well beyond their useful life, and their immediate replacement is required. Now, the strategy for roofs 2021, the $13.7 million package for both town and school roofs. It would encompass 7 facilities, approximately 406,000 square feet of roof over 5 years. Now, to help you visualize what 406,000 square feet is, the Home Depot plaza, if you will, so from Home Depot to Dollar Tree to Dick's, plus Costco is about 408,000 square feet. So next time you're cruising down Freshwater Boulevard to get an understanding of how much roof that is, or the next time you're in Costco, understand that that is that much roof that will have to be replaced through this program. Now, the 7 selected roofs, or buildings, if you will require multiple year CIP contributions for total replacements, and/or they're critical to town services that would cause a severe impact to the community. That's why those were chosen. The bonus part about this is that the school roofs, if they meet the certain criteria, will be able to receive up to 70% reimbursement of eligible costs, and that's estimated about $5 million worth of reimbursement coming back from the state. Now, taking those out of the CIP just reduces our CIP burden to tackle other roofs or other important projects that we have going through the vehicle replacement program or other CIP projects from all of the departments. But if we keep burdening the $680,000 for many projects, it's going to affect other things down the road. Now, the roof schedule, these are the schools and buildings that we're proposing, is Parkman. You'll notice it's Phase 1, and I'll get to that in a second. The Public Safety Complex, Stowe Phase 1, Alcorn, Prudence Crandall, Enfield Street School, and the Annex. Parkman and Stowe are listed in phases right now because portions of that roof are not eligible for reimbursement. So we're trying to get the best bang for our buck, and we may massage and maneuver this around. So when those come due, they'll be able to have 70% replacement or reimbursement, I'm sorry, to do that. So that's why this is just a very preliminary program right now. But again, we're trying to work with this to make sure that we can get all the eligible refund, the reimbursements that we can through the state. If the bidding climate is good and everything works out well, we've added a continuation list to the project, just in case, again, all these roofs still need attention. The senior center, the town hall, shelter, animal shelter, EMS, Old Town Hall, DPW, Pearl Street, and Central Library. If there's any money left over from the original 13.7, again, due to favorable climate, we can go to attack any one of these instead of going it through CIP. So as long as these are on it and we can continue it, I think we'll be good with that. And lastly, again, how did we get here and why were these chosen? Well, we compiled a town-wide roofing survey utilizing the building department data to help verify roof ages, which along with site investigations. Those site investigations were done by DPW staff, town staff, and a roofing expert, and we all utilize non-destructive investigation methods. Just some of them were destroyed, but we didn't want to make things any worse by peeling up some things. So we did a non-destructive way of doing it. The service life and deterioration extent of the roofing systems were used as primary factors for consideration and for condition rating. And why do we pick these in order of importance? Again, it's prioritized based on the overall condition and the failure impacting the facility operations and business disruption. Some of these, it would be catastrophic if some of these things happen. We're closing down school. We don't want to be doing that. That's why we move these things up, and that's why we're trying to work with that order. So what happens if this without a referendum? We would have to have multiple CIP projects for roofing, just like before. It would delay roof replacements and likely incur greater year-to-year expenses in leak repair. It doesn't include an inflation cost, which will reduce the actual roof replacement power, and again, it just prolongs the roofing issue. And another aspect, like I talked about before, was if we keep funding things through CIP, we're taking away other projects that other departments could be wanting to do. We have the vehicle replacement program and machinery and the like. So, thank you.
Thank you, Donald. Now, Kasha Perciello will present on the Recreation 2021 question.
Welcome, Kasha.
Thank you. Good evening. Kasha Perciello, Assistant Town Manager. So the recreation referendum is anticipated to cost approximately $6.5 million total. Here is an overview of the latest Higgins Park Master Plan. What's great to report here is a few of the planned amenities have already been funded both in the fiscal year 21 and the fiscal year 22 budgets. So as you can see, the planned amenities are the walking trails, the playscapes, basketball court, fitness stations, band shell, pool, and splash pad. So I will, and some good news we got today from Donald Nunes is that our Playscape is in, and it will work will begin on that in the coming weeks. So that's very exciting. So some of these things, 3 of these things really are in the works, and we'll be seeing some results soon. So I'll go in a little more detail here. I'll start with the splash pads. So the referendum contemplates putting 3 additional splash pads across town, and these splash pads will be located at Green Manor Park, Hazardville Memorial School, and Prudence Crandall School. The approximate cost of each of these splash pads would be $125,000. And especially, I just want to point out, Green Manor Park, we just expanded our community garden program there. We have some garden plots already reserved there and being used this year. And again, this an addition of a splash pad there would really make that a family destination. You could bring your kids to the splash pad while you tend to your community garden. So we're very excited about that location. I'm sorry about that. The Higgins Park pool would be located, and splash pad would be located at Higgins Park. And I'll have a slide following this to get in a little more detail. So this contemplates a state-of-the-art, zero-entry, 25-meter pool with a splash pad outside the pool fencing area. So the splash pad could be used during warmer months for a little longer. Also includes freestanding bathrooms and locker rooms. And this would replace the Lamagna pool that is going to be opening for its last season in the next week, I believe. So here is a bit of a close-up of just the pool splash pad area, just to vision it a little bit. As you can see, St. Adalbert's Gymnasium is up above. You have the pool directly below that. That would be fenced in. And then you have those 3 blue circles is where the splash pad is envisioned to go, so outside the pool fence, so it could be used a little longer. The light green structure, lime green structure, is a picnic area. And then right below that, and shaded in, is where the playground is going to be. So that playground is going to be for toddlers, older kids. It's also going to have a nice big swing set. So you can see it's really a full recreational complex right behind our town hall. In addition, so the walking trail was actually funded in the fiscal year 22 CIP. This latest plan envisions a 1/4 mile and a 1/3 of a mile loop, so 2 different loops, so you can really choose how far you go and to take different paths when you walk. That will have decorative lighting, and it will be able to be used year-round. In addition, we're contemplating fitness stations along the path as well, so you can work out as you walk around. Here is a vision, an idea of the Higgins Park bandshell, and this would just provide the community with access to performing arts, especially things like summer concerts. This would have green space seating, which means it would accommodate chairs, blankets, whatever makes you comfortable. And then the parking expansion. So next door, the town has a lease and option to purchase on 800 Enfield Street, which we call the Enfield Express, which is our drive-through service there. That is also the home of our tax and assessor's office. And as of May of this year, it's also the home of our Thompsonville Police Substation. So we envision the land behind Enfield Express. There's a lot of wooded area there. That would be cleared, and it would create additional parking to support the recreation complex here, and that would have approximately 83 additional spots there. It would also help the flow of traffic, and we would also have access from Route 5 into the park with that addition.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, Chief Fox and Chief Riggett will present on the Regional Public Safety Complex. Question.
Welcome you both. Welcome.
Good afternoon, ladies. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Chief Riggett and myself, thank you for the opportunity to join you. Allow us a few minutes to explain a little bit of history, and then where we would like to see the future take us, and where we'd like to see the future take this community. The current Enfield Police Department at 293 Elm Street was created in 1991, was built in 1991, 30 years ago now. And the vision at that time was for that state-of-the-art facility that, in all candor, I suspect was probably adequate might be a fair word for it in 1991. That facility, as you are likely aware, was scheduled to have a basement. It was scheduled to have a second floor. Neither of those materialized, and that was the will of the council and the community at that time. We certainly are pleased to provide the services that we can provide in the infrastructure that we currently enjoy. Against that backdrop, in particular, it is a pleasure to share with you, at the risk of repeating what I've said so many times, I think it's important, you have the benefit on the police department side to have a nationally and state accredited law enforcement organization, 100 strong, thank you very much, or on our way to 100 strong, thank you very much, that really prides itself on our responsiveness to community needs. I would also remind you, at the risk of revisiting this issue, we are one of only 21 Connecticut departments to enjoy this CALEA accreditation standard, and within the state accreditation paradigm, the police department is accredited to the highest of those 3 state accreditation standards. We have, unfortunately, however, outgrown the facility that we are in. Similarly, and I will not make it a point this evening in any way to steal any of Chief Riggett's thunder, but to the extent that the first slide falls to me, I think it appropriate, because Enfield EMS in 1991 was housed within the Enfield Police Department. They occupied the entirety of what we now use as one evidence processing bay. So they had one indoor garage facility, if you will, and the ambulance ran out of that facility. I suspect to say that facility was adequate in 1991 would strain my credibility, and I don't know that Chief Riggett would agree with the assessment of adequate. Against that backdrop, the council very graciously and I think very appropriately allowed this community, under Mr. Bronson's direction, to acquire 2 parcels of land totaling 7 acres at a reasonable $210,000 at the corner of Elm and Moody to allow this potential build-out that we're discussing with you today. The location and the availability of that land was crucial, and it was a pleasure to watch the council make that decision that we think set the stage for the very positive developments that we can talk to you about this evening. The issues that we would present to you, and again, I know I speak for the both of us when I share that we are proud to provide the level and caliber of service that we do, but we have to be willing to identify for you what we think our Achilles heels are. Within the police department, we have a lack of adequate storage space for records. We have closets that are filled to the brim. We have equipment that's stored in cells. We have stuff that's jammed into every nook and cranny where we can find the available space. And it's simply not as easy as purge it out. We have records retention requirements and equipment needs that mandate that we have the equipment that we have. Both the male and female locker rooms at the PD are inadequate for the size and the number of members within the department. We have asked non-essential employees in terms of locker space to give up their locker space. And I would share with you with a quiet sense of pride, I was the first one that said, I don't need a locker, give it to someone who does. Our training ability is unfortunately limited. It is limited by the facility infrastructure that is currently available. We have a small to medium training room that fulfills our needs, but it is a choke point, if you will, in terms of our ability to take services and training and the quality of the men and women and the professionalism that you can enjoy. It is a choke point to some degree on the ability that we have from a training perspective because of the limitations of that facility. We also do not have, and this is significant, crucial would not be an overstatement, we do not have a matted training room. And what we would do with a matted training room in particular would be to incorporate some of the less than lethal force option training skills and scenarios and some of the de-escalation strategies that we're doing now, but we're doing them in borrowed space wherever we can find it. We're over at the annex. We're trying to borrow space from fire departments in order to do some of that modern day training that we know society rightfully demands. Firearms training is also an Achilles heel. We have annual firearms qualification at what is effectively a sandpit. It is a sandpit at the recycling center, and that's what we use for daytime firearms qualification. It is a requirement, and additionally a very good idea, that we engage periodically in low light or no light firearms qualification. We beg, borrow, and steal range space courtesy of the positive relations that we have with the Connecticut Department of Corrections. All of these are items that we've successfully worked around, but they are areas where vast improvement is a strong suggestion.
Thank you. Good evening.
Welcome.
So in the 90s, Enfield Police Department operated the town ambulance. Enfield EMS was born in the early 2000s. And in 2005, we operated out of Enfield Police Department, like Chief Fox was explaining. We enjoyed being there, but we quickly outgrew that space. And in 2007, we moved to our current station at 1296 Enfield Street, which is an old Enfield firehouse. We realized, while we were appreciative of more space, we knew that that was not going to be our forever home. We've already outgrown that space as well. So the current station has 4 bays for vehicles. We own 10. We have inadequate staff parking at that location. There's no training or conference space. It's just one open room. There is no storage space. Particularly temperature control is very important in our field, in the medical field. We don't have storage with any temperature control, and vehicles outside doesn't allow temperature control. We have no lockers or locker rooms. We have inadequate rest areas, and there's no separate employee workspace and limited office space in our current station. Thank you.
So what you'll see before you now is a schematic, is a graphic of what the current facility structure and what the add-on to the facility structure would look like. What you see below you, or what you see at the bottom of the screen, is Elm Street, and it is running right to left, left to right as you look at the slide in front of you. And Moody Road is running effectively, it runs east-west. It's to the left-hand side of your screen. It's up and down as you're looking at the slide. And it takes perhaps a moment to orientate yourself to what you're looking at, but I think it is time well spent. You'll see the current police department, which is really to the right. It's about the right third of what you see before you in that toward the lower right-hand corner. You'll see the entrances that we have on Elm Street, and you'll see the parking in the back. The parking during day shift, the parking when everyone is in, the parking at shift change is also very tight. When we try to run an in-service class, it is also very tight. Vehicles that are stored, evidence that needs to be stored, that needs to go out back, the presence of any of our larger vehicles that go out back make the back of it rather tight as well. So we'll take a look at the schematic in a little bit more detail in a subsequent slide, but to the extent that it's helpful for you, it was very helpful for me. Take a look at what you see before you and think about the current structure as that right-hand third of that darker rectangular area, and then we'll build out from there to the left on the current building, at least as you're looking at that slide. So our vision for the complex, and this one perhaps is even more helpful. I would also offer that the easiest way to grasp this one is to break it up into thirds. The right-hand third of what you're looking at is the current EPD footprint. And every one of our workspaces is labeled, what they're currently utilized for, and how we make those spaces function. The center third would be effectively a shared space, and you'll see in greater detail in subsequent slides specifically what that shared space is going to look like and what EMS would look like all the way over to the left. But the building addition and the facility build-out calls for moving, as you look at this, to the left of the current PD building into that shared space that EMS and the PD would work in together as needed, that they could use as needed, that we would use as needed, and then that dedicated state-of-the-art EMS facility with adequate parking and entrance for EMS onto Elm Street, as well as one onto Moody Road. On the PD side, these are the problems that we believe that we have addressed, and this is the modernization that is 30 years in the making, if you will. This facility build-out will provide adequate space for the 100 officers and support staff that the PD is now very happy to employ and to enjoy the services of. This will provide a locker room space and a physical fitness facility. We have got officers, and we're grateful for this, but it is an ad hoc facility. Officers in an EPD makeshift gym that is staffed with military surplus equipment that we have a workspace for over at the annex. The firearms range issue is solved with a state-of-the-art firearms range that will be underground within this facility. This will allow us to do our normal firearms training. It will allow no light and low light, which, as I referenced earlier, are required, and they're very good ideas as well. This will include the ability to offer decision-making firearms platform training, and similar to the Blue Line training that many of you acquainted yourselves with this year and in previous years, and also to use live fire simulations in a de-escalation strategy type of mode. This facility build-out will also allow for dedicated workspace for our social service partners. We currently have 2 DCF employees that are co-located at EPD, and we have 1 part-time social service employee who is located at EPD. Now, have no doubt, these are wonderful additions to what we can do within the police department, but they are jammed into the detective division at makeshift work area desk locations. The facility build-out will allow them appropriate work locations and appropriate office space. We have the capacity, for purposes of this build-out, to also consider in the future a location for regionalized dispatch services. The General Assembly has wrestled for several years with a mandate that the multiple PSAPs within Connecticut, the public safety answering points, be consolidated into a lesser number. This year, the General Assembly came very, very close to mandating that happened, eventually reducing that to a study. If and when that happens in the future, and I do think it will be a when, some of our smaller municipal partners may very well be looking for our assistance, and I'd like to be able to say yes with an understanding that that would benefit those communities, but it would benefit Enfield as well for our purposes. Next to last, we are also able, with this build-out, to move our Enfield Joint Operations Center, which is currently housed off-site, as you are likely aware. This is the location that the cameras feed into. This is the location where we can run large-scale events, protests, disturbances, labor actions. We can ensure the public safety at these large-scale events. We are hampered by the inefficiencies that we currently suffer by having that location off-site. By building out the locker rooms, the EJOC can go into the current locker space. In summary, this will allow your Enfield Police Department to move from great to greater in terms of the services that it provides.
Thanks. So this slide shows the EMS station proposal. And really the bread and butter of the EMS station is the bay right in the center, which would hold 8 vehicles. Again, indoor parking and temperature control is important to our vehicles. The access to Moody and to Elm, which is cut off by this picture, but you saw in the previous slide, is important. And then there's additional parking, staff parking. To the left of the bay, you'll see mostly, I'd say, employee living space. So there's dining and kitchen area, there's locker rooms, there's bathrooms, there's more storage space, there's work office space. And then to the right of the bay is where you would see conference rooms, training rooms, office space, again, more storage, temperature control storage, copy room. This would meet all of our needs and allow for growth of the department, future growth.
Perhaps the crown jewel of this undertaking in totality is the slide that is before you at present. we envision a regional conference center which will allow the town of Enfield to continue in the leadership role that you currently have and that we currently maintain. What you'll see before you is a state-of-the-art auditorium and conference room with an overall capacity, if it was filled, of 207 people. 173 in the large conference room, the large auditorium. 20 individuals could fit into the medium conference room and 14 in the small conference room. Envision, at least from the police side, and I would defer to Chief Riggett if she wishes to comment on the EMS side, envision on the police side that police officers enjoy 6 months of training, hardcore training, but it is at the recruit level and it is at the beginning of one's career. Thereafter, officers receive mandatory in-service training, which is approximately 2 weeks or so every 3 years, firearms and medical and certain other specialty skills being on top of that. But where we have had to be creative and where we see the opportunity for growth and potential economic benefit to the town would be to have a state-of-the-art facility where we would be able to offer up training space to some of the national level training providers that are out there that will come in to a given community if there is a suitable space such as what you see before you, and they will offer training in some of the highly sought areas: internal affairs, police ethics, de-escalation strategies, responding to the active aggressor, certain accident investigation programs, police applicant background, the list goes on. And by bringing in these vendors, the vendors will either afford Enfield free seats for hosting them in our facility, and then effectively they market their program to neighboring departments, and they make their money by bringing those individuals in who pay tuition rate. Or if we were ever so interested, we could take that monkey on our back, contract with that vendor, and then that vendor comes to town and we effectively sell the open seats. There's a little bit more risk associated with option 2, but there's also a substantial upside to option 2. When I describe what's before you as the crown jewel of this undertaking, it caused me to smile from ear to ear when I saw the schematic on this one.
No. Yeah, so just to piggyback, for EMS training purposes, a lot of our training would happen jointly between the Enfield Police Department and EMS, so responding to mass casualty training, continuing medical education that both staff need. We would be able to offer some bridge training from EMT and paramedic school to field training, which the industry needs. And then we can proudly continue our first aid, CPR, stop the bleed training that we provide to the public in this facility. Thanks.
I will just close. The public safety regional complex was not something we anticipated to go to referendum this fall. But because the council last fall saw the wisdom of acquiring the 7 acres adjacent to the department for future growth, we then were able to put together a plan, which you've just seen, which we then talked to Representative Arnone and Representative Hall about and asked that they would sponsor the legislation to the bonding commission to fund this. And because we have a very talented staff, and when we had a meeting, and I'm going to address the reason I think the governor was interested in this program is because of the regional approach and the fact that not only helps one town but 4 towns and the all northern Connecticut region itself. Donald Nunes, one of the select persons, we were looking at this before we had submitted it to the bond commission. She said, well, where did you get that? You already hired the architects and you did this schematic and this conceptual? And we said, no, Donald Nunes did it. She said, you were able to do that in staff? She said, I have to wait months and I have to go to the finance committee and get funds approved to do it. She said, it would have taken me a year just to have that diagram. So we do things a little differently here, and because we do that, and because we have a talented staff, and that we have a council that has a vision, we were able to acquire the land, put the schematics, put the entire package together with our vision of a regional center, talk to the adjacent towns of East Windsor, Suffield, and Windsor Locks, get the support of our state's attorney's office for the state of Connecticut with the regional approach, get the support of Congressman Courtney, who wrote a letter, and then have the bill ultimately submitted to the legislature by Representative Arnone and Representative Hall, and then amazingly, within a few short months after, and we did speak with the governor's office to tell them, with the way society is and what people are demanding, and increased training and giving departments the resources to de-escalate and to have skills, as the chief said, not 2 or 3 weeks over a 3-year period, but to be able to do this on an ongoing basis and offer it to other departments in the state. I think that's why the governor then put it into his bonding bill. Now, we put this up because we asked for $12.8 million, and that's the bill number, the House and Senate. Senator Kissel also was called to say that he made efforts on our behalf as well for this in the Senate. We thank him as well. The request in the House was sponsored, as I said, by Tom and Carol. The governor, we're waiting for him to sign the bill, but it's his bill. It's been passed, or hopefully will. But it's a 2-year budget. It's a biennial budget. These projects that he includes then go before the bonding commission over that 2 years in no given order, except where the governor wants them to be. So we still have some waiting to do. Our representatives in center and we as well are reaching out to the governor's office to say, when will that be? And will it be the full $12.8 million? They're confident. We're hopeful it will be sooner than later and for that amount. But just so our residents know, that is what we anticipate, and that's what we're telling the council. We anticipate that the full cost of the project is $12.8 million, and it will be paid for with the bond money that comes from the state. I had a very good question earlier from Councilor Hemler. Is that a loan? Is it to be paid back? Does it mean that it's not our facility? No. The way the bond commission works, the governor picks certain projects, they borrow for it, and all of Connecticut, he picks projects he thinks are worthy for the town that's sponsoring it, but also for the state. And we made that cut. But we wanted to be able to have this on in November if he gives us the nod that the money will be forthcoming in that amount, so we can put it on in November. And if he says he's going to be doing it next year, well, then there's a gubernatorial election. We'll be ready to go then. But this was done with lightning speed. It's an incredible project, and I think it's in no small measure to the effect and the impression that both Chief Fox and Chief Riggett in their presentations in the bond, the case that they made, the fact we're working with other towns in the area, that I think it's something that the governor is striving to do, is to share services in Connecticut, and we've been part of that, and I think that's why we were chosen. But we'll stay tuned on this one, but I just want our residents to know that we expect that we will. You already put in $250,000 for the land and some other monies, but the full scope and bulk of it we anticipate would be paid for with bonding. I'm just going to go back to the beginning before we open it up for questions, Mayor. But again, we have a very seasoned team on the road project. JP and John have been here. It's not their first rodeo, so I think there's a real trust level. There's real confidence, and also, the other fella, the third amigo or the third musketeer, who's now our Director of Public Works, Donald Nunes. Not only is he our director and has brought that skill to all of Public Works, but his expertise and where we hired him from was doing these road projects. So we're in a really good position, and I think we have a good confidence level from our residents that they'll support that referendum. The roof referendum, as we've seen, I think that graphic we're going to put out and use it in some of our outreach to the community. When it rains, that's what's happening. We're just throwing money down the drain, literally to the tune of $77,000 a year, and just the hard cost to the contractors to fix the leaks. It makes much more sense to do it at once, economies of scale, and also, for the school roofs, we take advantage, then we get a 70% reimbursement. The third referendum, which is probably one of the most fun questions, I think is a reasonable amount. Council can adjust it one way or the other. But you know what I like about all three of these? Council did it in a phased approach. We didn't wait just to do things at referendum. We did a building consolidation last year, so we're getting rid of at least 2 buildings. We're going to be putting them on the market. Lamagna will be torn down and consolidated. We're selling where the building and grounds is because they're going out to the annex. Social services moving out of High Street. That building's going to sell for almost $500,000. So not only will we not have the upkeep, but we have the economies of we've brought things together, less custodial, much more efficient. You already did that. What I like about Higgins Park, you didn't wait all or nothing for a referendum. Last fall, before we even had the budget in place, you funded the 1/4 mile and the 1/3 walking trail for the Higgins Park. You funded the playscape. It's here. It's going to be in a couple of weeks. You funded a new outdoor basketball court. That's already done. Now we say to the voters, would you like to make it magnificent? Would you like a band shell? And would you like to put some exercise stations? Because our experts tell us that the seniors love to walk and they love to utilize the fitness center. So we want to make this something that everybody wants to come to. Seniors to go walking, young folks with their families. And the St. Adalbert, the vision of this council, we've talked about it before. Some buildings are beyond hope and can't be saved, like Lamagna. So we tearfully say goodbye, but we move on. Other buildings, you see the history of it and the fact that they can be reclaimed. That's St. Adalbert's. You already funded. We're not asking the taxpayers. You already funded to do the new 9,000 square foot indoor basketball court, volleyball, a stage. That's already been funded. And we have some action items tonight to make that a reality. So what we're asking there is, because we're closing Lamagna, let's put a pool there so we don't take that away from the community. Bob is an expert in that. The whole town will benefit from it. And you know what I really like? The Enfield Express, you had the vision to get that property during COVID so we could do drive-through services for our residents, but also because it was such a big piece of property, we're going to double the parking spaces behind Town Hall for the park and St. Adalbert's. Because what do we hear? People want a facility, but they go there and they can't get a parking space. They've got little kids, they're packing carriages, and they're walking 2 miles to get to it. So my point of all this is, Council has had a very prudent approach to look at these things, to phase them in, and now in the bigger items to say to our residents, do you want to go to the next step and invest in the infrastructure, the capital improvement, but the road is necessary, roofs are necessary. I submit recreation is necessary because people for a lot of years in this town have said we need more for our young people and for our seniors to enjoy. It is going to be a real a beacon of surrounding towns to have a park like this. We already have the Enfield Market, which is a great success. You'll now be able to have concerts. We're going to have the pool. You have a splash pad. It's going to be a destination. Come to the Enfield Market on a Sunday and bring your kids to the splash pad. Use the playscape. Take a walk around the park. Go in and perhaps utilize the pool for summer hours. It's going to be incredible. And I think the cost is a very reasonable one for what we're getting. And I want to tell you, we're being fiscally conservative. It's important for our residents to know that we do a Standard & Poor's rating. And what Standard & Poor's wants to see communities do is balance. They want to make sure you're not taking on too much debt, but that you're investing in infrastructure and your CIP. So all of a sudden in 10 years, you don't have a colossal collapse and you raise your mill rate by 100 and everybody's taxes double. So John has bounce this off our bond counsel and our consultant and Standard & Poor's to reach the sweet point. We don't want to borrow too little, but we don't want to borrow too much. We want it to be just right. And I think that that's something that we have presented to you. We'll hope you and the rest of us over the summer will communicate this to our residents so they will support it. July 5th, we'll have a public hearing here on all these so the public can come forward and give us their opinion. We anticipate the first meeting in August. We'll have a community conversation, again, for an hour and a half, where we can then have staff and answer questions because the public hearings by law only allow people to give their opinion. So we'll do a community conversation in August to let there be a back and forth. We can make adjustments as necessary. You can adopt the final questions at the end of August, and then it would be on the referendum ballot, the 4 questions separately in November, so people can say, I like A, I like B, I don't like C, I like D. So people will have the choice. But I'll tell you, we are in great fiscal shape in this town. We have a very healthy reserve fund. And again, we've done things in stages. We didn't go to the public and say it's all or nothing. Well, we're not going to do consolidation or we're not going to do a playscape until you give us all this money to referendum. We did it in phases. And I think we're very fortunate to have the professional and seasoned staff that we do to implement the policies that this council has deemed appropriate to ask us to implement. And with that, we're pretty much on schedule.
So what we'll do, real quick, what we'll do is, since you guys are here, let's do public safety first, then we'll go back in order with the roads, the roofs. So again, we're not having you guys come up back and forth. Any questions specifically for public safety? Councilor Sperrazza, then Councilor Sakala.
I think this addition is absolutely fantastic. The people of Enfield deserve it. Our officers deserve it. And Enfield will continue to be a regional leader. My only question, Chief Fox, is maybe I missed it up there. I didn't see any provision for the EOC, for the Emergency Operations Center. I don't know if you've had occasion in your time here to use it. I did many times. And those are uncomfortable, long duration events, and where we used to set up in the training room was not adequate. Would that be something in the Joint Operations Center, would be in the OC, or
I'm grateful that I have not had to activate it since my arrival. Thank you to Mother Nature and to other circumstances beyond my control. I would envision running such an event out of the Joint Operations Center because it does give us the advantage of being able to see the camera feeds in real time.
Right, and I think too, you talked about it, but I didn't want to gloss over the fact that having that complex, that auditorium, and having providers from around the nation come there to provide the training, giving us the free slots, and marketing it to area towns, or option two, because we have a lot of Academy certified instructors. If we were to do that and opened up seats to Suffield and East Windsor, it also has the potential as a revenue source for the town.
It does. The national providers do. Our in-house experts do.
Right.
And I wouldn't want to oversell this early on, but there was also at least a very light preliminary inquiry about the possibility of us serving as a location for a post-satellite academy.
Sure, like
we would
New
not,
Britain and...
correct. We
right.
would not run it. A vendor would run it, but we would have that facility available.
Yeah, and of course, too, throw in the fact that when we have to do our regional training, we're sending officers on overtime, sometimes travel time all over the place. To have them all here, it's just a wonderful thing. So I'm pretty excited about it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to add, and I know we're running on time, but this regional center, we could spend the whole evening just talking about what this will bring to the community and to the state. But I also would like to say, too, I've gone to the fire chiefs meeting, and I don't want to leave them out because they're going to be welcome here, and there are a lot of trainings that we will do with them jointly, EMS tactical, mass casualty. I've offered it to them, too, that sometimes they're training in different areas, but this state-of-the-art conference center, they will have carte blanche use, and they'll be welcome there, so we can all train together as we have done very, very well collaboratively over my last 30 years, and we'll continue that with the fire departments and the chiefs as well. I just didn't want to fail to mention that.
Councilor Sakala and Councilor Muller.
Sure, I'll try to be quick. Two things. More of a comment, the first one. I'm really worried about this one in particular. I think the wording on the referendum question is going to have to be very clear. Normally it's clear as mud, but if we can try to make it more clear, it's nothing to do with you guys. It's bond counsel and, the referendum writers. So, because if it's 12.8 that's going to be given to us by the state, it's going to be really important that that's very, very clear in the question, because we're going to have 4 questions, and that worries me that all 4 are not going to pass. But a minimum of 2 of them have large reimbursement rates. So we just want to make sure that's very, very clear. My question really is going to be public safety, but it brings in the roofs. So we have the public safety complex on the roof referendum. Is it going to make sense to do it if we're going to be either redoing, adding on, or anything to the public safety complex? Is it going to make sense to keep that on the list? Or?
It's a good question. Donald can address it. It's much like the dog pound. I'm hopeful that next year in the CIP we're going to move that completely so we wouldn't spend the funding. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the purpose of a secondary list, that if you don't use it all for the first, we've listed the other items that we can then switch it to and do them there.
Right. I don't remember where it is on the timing, but as long as we time it right, so if we don't need to do it, you don't want to do it twice. All right, those are my only 2 for this.
Thank you. Councilor Muller.
Thank you for the presentation. I'm excited about the regional public safety complex. I just had one question. The parking for the convention center, was there enough? It was hard to tell by the drawing. Will there be enough to have the convention and employees as well?
There will be.
There'll be plenty up top.
Yes, sir.
From there. All right.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions on public safety? Councilor Hemler.
Just one quick question. I know originally there was a path to the Moody Road facility for gassing up, and I didn't see that on the list. Is that still part of the plan?
I think that's part of the long-term plan. There's concerns about what that's going to look like and the possibility that there's some wet areas between our facility and there that would have to be worked around.
Anyone else? Thank you both. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. In a second, our roads, just go in order now. Welcome, gentlemen. Thank you for hanging in there. So, Councilor Bosco, then Councilor Hemler. This is on the roads part of the referendum.
Yeah, thank you. I got to thank you guys. I mean, we put a lot of work in this, and poor Donald, he gets it all done, and then we send him back so people can understand, really, we're doing exactly what's needed to be done now, where we were doing roads all the same. And it was sort of a waste to do a road the same that's got a lot of traffic to something that doesn't. And Donald had everything all drawn up, and I came to the caucus and I said, hey, look, we got to do things differently. We got to try to get more roads done. And that's when they came in with this, doing what we need to do without the curbing. And I guess it was all, what brought it to my attention was when we had to set that thing over there on
The hydrodynamic
yeah,
separator.
I'm looking at that and I'm going, whoa, how much money is this? We're spending a lot of money for something we don't really, what we need, but it may not be necessary. And then he had it at one price, and we're looking, and there's just no way. We had too many roads that were really bad. So just to let everyone know, this roads referendum was hashed over and over again and looked at a whole bunch of different times, and this is what we need to do to make and keep going forward on our roads. So I want to thank you guys, because, like I said, we put you through hell, and you guys coming out swinging and came up with a good plan.
Councilor Henley, then Councilor Muller, and Councilor Riley.
Thanks for the presentation. Every time a list comes out, I look at it because I've got 2 really big neighborhoods in my district that are in dire need, and I'm glad they're still on there, but the years kind of bother me. So Meadowlark, Broadleaf, the Yale area, especially Meadowlark, all those streets, they're a mess. It's down for 2023. If there's any way to push that up, because they're in dire need. And then Walnut, Garfield, and all those little streets there too. They're in desperate need. So that's my only comment.
They definitely are, and as we said, the schedule that we showed is very, very preliminary. We just, we had to start with something, and all the streets on the list really have some streets that are in really bad condition.
Yeah, I understand. I needed to say it, so
Okay.
I said it.
Thank you.
Councilor Muller, then Councilor Riley.
Thank you for the presentation. I had a quick question. Now, some of the PCIs were close to 70 or 75, and we're still doing them. Is it because you're already in that neighborhood?
For the most part, those streets, yes, they are.
Equipment's already there, right? It makes sense.
Right.
While you're there.
Like we had said, we're trying to make sure we don't leave any streets out of neighborhoods, and we're finishing neighborhoods that we've done most of the streets. So, thank you. Okay.
Councilor Riley, Councilor Ungar.
Okay, so a question I had, a few questions. When I saw Summers Road up there, it was from Taylor to the Summers line. Didn't we already do Summers Road? I drive down there all the time. So are we?
That's a really good question. What we did on Summers and Moody was similar to what we did on Mullen Road. It really wasn't the full solution. We did it for safety purposes, and if you do notice on the schedule, those were on the last year. What we did there was really, in effect, a mill and pave. So we just milled a little bit off the top and paved it to get that to be a little safer. But in reality, that road needs full base. Similar, again, this is exactly what we did on Mullen Road. We did kind of a Band-Aid, if you will. We'll get to reuse that material that we put down, reclaim it, but those 2 streets need more than what we did. But it is safer now that we did those.
It's a beautiful ride down that road now. I guess, do we have, and are we going to have it on our website, is there like a secondary list? Like, the roofs, you do them, and then if we have money left or whatever, then there's a secondary set or a third set?
We do have an ancillary list. We
Okay.
just didn't have it on the abbreviated presentation.
Okay.
So yes.
And then we'll
we
be able to see, the public will be able to see that?
Yes.
Okay. Because I do have, some asked, and I agree, I got, a couple questions about Sword Ave, my street. The road washes into my driveway all the time. There's a small part, I got a question, and it's interesting because there's a small part of Ridge Road that gets overlooked. It's west of Cartier and St. James, and includes Falcon Crest and Ridgeview. So I've got questions on that, why that one small part of Ridge Road seems to get neglected while east side of it gets done. But I would be remiss if I didn't ask those questions. That was all I had. Thank you.
Counselor Ungar, then Counselor Mangini.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for your presentation. During your presentation, you mentioned that you're not going to do any new curbing. However, a resident on South George Washington had called me and said part of the street is curbed, the other part is not. And so I was wondering if that's for water drainage or it got overlooked, or are you going to finish it?
I don't know where that is on George Washington, but.
It's South George Washington?
South George
It's right near the
Washington.
Enfield Public Library.
Okay, no, I know where South George Washington is. I'm not sure why a portion of that has curb and a portion does not.
They said part of it's curbed and the other part isn't,
That
where
could-
originally it all had curbing. So they were wondering.
Yeah, I don't remember. We did that street a while ago, if I'm not mistaken. We did work on that a while ago.
All right, thanks.
We'll look into that
Okay,
and
thank
find
you.
out.
But
Councilor
the thing is that when we do the design for these new roads, we're going to tell the designer not to curb the road if there is no curbing there already. So if there is curbing, we're gonna replace it with curbing. But if there is not, then we're gonna not put new curbing. We're gonna let the water infiltrate instead of taking everything into the catch basins. So that's part of it's part of the design. You know, when you talk to the consultants, you gotta tell them this is what we're looking for. So that is the plan, not to put curbing if there is no curbing there already.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor Mangini and Deputy Mayor Suzak.
Thank you. And thank you for your presentation. And I know from years back with the roads project, how hard and complicated it is for you to come up with work on which roads. However, I do want to go back in time a little bit here. This council did approve a certain amount of funding to do some work on Summers Road. I don't recall the amount of money that this council allowed or agreed to. I don't want to see neighborhoods getting into my road first, your road last, etc. But what I do want to ask is if you remember or if you could recall the amount of funding that we did approve. I know it was a transfer, I believe, and for what, I know you said something about milling. Was it used for milling? Okay, so what will have to be done in addition to that process? The part A, part B of my question. How much and what next?
Counselor, we did that all in-house with DPW staff. We trimmed up some of the side of the road and we had it paved, and we used funds that we had left over in the highway account. That's how we used that money to do that. We asked for a transfer and we put it into that one account to do that. So what's left over there is, again, we just trimmed up the edges a little bit, took some of the really rough spots off, and we just basically put in an 1.5 inch overlay over the whole thing. The base still is destroyed. That's why all the cracking and heaving, and that's why it causes it. We just, again, like John said, we just Band-Aided this for now. That's what was left. I don't remember the amount that we spent. I'll have to get back to you on that.
Thank you. Maybe we can get that figure. Thank you. Thank you.
I remember about 160,000. We used leftover winter plowing money
Correct.
that we.
DPW was
right.
innovative because it was so bad. We did it for the short term.
That
And
was just to make it safe.
right.
Yeah, I mean, if you ever been out there, you need to redig that. And then there's the pond there. That's also an issue right off or down at the pond, whatever you want to call it.
The culvert
right.
needs replacement as
Yeah.
well, which is more towards the
Yeah.
southerly side. So we have to work on that in addition to redoing the base of the road. So right now, that fix will get us a couple years, 2 to 3 years or 4 years, like Mullen Road. So that's what we're targeting for, just so we can get it back on the list for this referendum, just to do it
Thank you.
properly.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
I just want to thank everybody for the votes and reiterate what Joey said. I mean, we had everything all planned, and then Joey and I said, and the DPW Cindy was there as well. the sheeting of the water off and not capturing everything for me was a huge, I guess, obstacle that we have overcome. And now that we understand that we're doing that, I think this is really important. And it's good to see the state supporting us in not capturing every ounce of water that falls on our pavement. And in support of Councilor Ungary, you know, I live right across from South George, Washington. That was done in 2000. The curbing wasn't put on the, I guess it'd be the northwest side. And really is a terrible erosion problem there. And the rest of that whole road is curbed. And it's always been a mystery to me as to why we didn't do that, because that road has quite a pitch to it and quite a slope, and the water does do some damage to the side road there. So hopefully we can look at that a little bit differently than we have in the past. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else on roads? I'll just say this just part of the program. Also, can we just make sure that when someone cuts our brand new road, that we are tracking and we have, and I'm saying this, I'm driving in, the beautiful job that was done on Post Office Road. You put in a nice walkway right across from the steel road to, I mean, really first-class job, because so many people cross over that road, you know, mothers pushing it, the child carriage. Someone cutting that road, and it's buckled already. Yeah. And I know how much money it took to do that road. I got to tell you, I'm driving. I almost stopped, got out of my car, and said, this is what drives me nuts.
That one was a water break.
All right.
The one you're
yeah,
talking
you can
about on
see the
Post Office
buckle.
Road.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. So I don't know who, and I know
That's why
this-
we try to talk to the utilities about those things.
And I know it's a utility. It's there's still a cut on Weymouth Road. Again, really well done job on Weymouth Road. 19 Weymouth Road, small little cut. They didn't go curb to the middle. And I got to tell you, when I don't see curb to the middle, I almost want to pull over and know who did it so I can call them myself. And I apologize, but it just seems, and I get it. Once the road's done, all of a sudden I hate to say it, I know it's almost like a coincidence. But I know there's other parts of town when you see just a beautifully done road, a cut, and it doesn't go curb to middle like it's supposed to. You know, that's the only thing I just ask, part of this, that we just somehow maybe monitor it if there's a way of doing it. Well, because the roads, the program that's been run has been fantastic. Started back in 2000. The computer system that you guys use in 18. And what people don't realize in that PCI. It's interesting. I was on the council back then, and everyone said do the worst roads first, right? And you can see there's still some roads out there that we just haven't been able to get to for whatever reason, and are in tough shape. Yeah. So it's great to see those on the list. And but I don't. Just more of a statement than a question. But if we could, because it was a water main break.
It was, yeah.
Right.
We do track the cuts through excavation permits, and then sometimes you do see. They do have to do a temporary patch, and they have to wait a 3-month period before they do the mill and pave. And a lot of I know the gas company groups them. They have one contractor. They have come and do all their cuts at one time of the year, so it could be longer.
And that's the issue. If we look through this with Sword Ave, 3 years ago, the water company went in and destroyed that street. Yeah. And that's, I think, it's under some pretense that was going to be part of our future road referendum. So maybe we just think about that as we look at a couple more roads, if we, because again, the water company already went in and as you know, dug up that road from top to bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So again, thank you. I mean, people don't realize economic development is part of your roads, and I mean about quality of your life. I mean, you drive a car and you hit a pothole, and there's nothing more frustrating. And the fact that I think. Now we're I think in the state of Connecticut, we're one of the higher PCI towns, right? I mean, I think maybe.
Yes.
And in closing comments, just let people know what they bought and how important it is as we continue to go forward.
The consultant that we use works with a number of the communities in the state, and they said that we are at the top of the charts as far as general condition of our roads.
The golden standard.
The golden standard.
And I think it's good because the amount of work that your staff does with the contractors, who we've been lucky, and the contractors do a pretty good job. I mean, there's a lot of coordination between your staff and the contractors. And I agree. I think we got this down, pretty good. We're always looking to improve, but I mean, it really is a pretty well-oiled machine. I think this is, all four are obviously important. This one is just, this part of the referendum is very important. So thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Roofs. So we're going to move on to roofs, and we'll end with recreation. So we're not going to take a break. So if anyone don't feel sorry, we're late. So we feel free to.
And again, we'll post this on the website, and we'll post the previous short outline we did in June together with it. And also, we're going to post, we had the consultant come in on the roads in the referendum on an extended. They did a very nice job, because I don't want to take it for granted that the public will, and rest on our laurels. We'll put that out there to reiterate what a fine job that we are the gold standard on roads, and we'll put out the more detailed in the weeds, as I call them, presentations for roads and roofs, so people are more interested and want to delve down. That'll be available too.
So roofs, Councilor, you saw your hand up? Councilor
Can I have one point of,
Go ahead, yeah.
before the roofs, Councilor Mangini, thanks to John Wilcox and his quick computer skills, was $110,000.
That was pretty close. Pretty close.
$110,000, so, thank you, John.
Plus or minus. I was plus or minus. Councilor Crissati, sorry, you got the floor.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank all of the people that did the presentations tonight. Going from the roads, the roof, recreation, regional, public safety complex. I have to commend you. Your presentation was outstanding, and trying to stay on task with everything here. Been very familiar with the roofs referendum. Many of us are on the facilities committee, and I know that you've spent hours and hours and hours, on 13.7 million, for town and school roofs, and the way that you prioritize them, I have to give you a lot of credit with that. And then to know that we're going to be receiving a 70% reimbursement. We really have to, once again, keep stressing that. And I think all of us here, on all four of these referendums, they're all important to our town, and we just have to remain positive and push forward and promote each and every one of these referendums and the presentations that everybody presented tonight. And that's what I really have to say. I'm not going to question anybody in terms of what was presented tonight.
Any questions specifically on roofs? I know we've had a number of conversations on this, so you may get off the hook. I don't see anything.
Thank you, Donald, for the presentation. Yeah. I just want to let the residents know it's important that this roof referendum passes. Going the other way, doing it in piecemeal, we were paying mobilization and demobilize 3 times for, say, Hazardville Memorial or those roofs.
Yes.
So that added up quite a bit.
Yeah, it's just those hidden, it's not really a hidden cost, but it's saying you don't realize how much it takes to get a contractor there,
right,
get their equipment there, then get rid, then they leave, then they come back. It's just, like the manager said, it's economies of scale, and that's what we're regularly doing. But to Councilor Crissati, I thank him for the kind words. Again, the Joint Facilities Committee has worked tirelessly on many reiterations of this, and my kudos to Jeffrey as well, because he's kind of spearheaded this whole thing, and I really appreciate all the work that Jeffrey has done and all the insight that he provides, because I definitely am not I'm definitely not one of those facilities kind of person. So give me a road any day. Give me a road any day.
All right, so I think you're off the hook. Recreation, Councilor Sakala.
So, not picking on recreation. Do we know do we have an estimate on how much the maintenance or annual water costs are going to cost for the splash pads?
Don, we actually worked it into the budget for the first one, so John has an understanding of the cost with Public Works, and we can supply that to you as well. And again, we put in for additional ones. I'm hopeful that we'll see what the response of the community is when we have the one up and running. It's supposed to be starting to be installed. I have Donald check like every 6 hours to make sure they're coming. And it's supposed to start on August 1st, or I told him he's going to be out there with a hose and a sprinkler. But that's a good, and my point is this. This is just our, at this point, recommendation for additional parts of town. If we put it in and no one comes, then you may not want to do any more. I don't think that's going to be the case.
So that's going to be my comment. Yep. We have one coming in on Parkman.
Right.
I think everybody's on board with Higgins.
Right.
I'm only going to say I'm really upset that you're getting rid of the field 700 more times.
That's okay.
But can't go a Higgins Park conversation without saying it. But I think that I like the idea of having one over Green Manor too, because there is a playscape there and the gardens and the skate park. But I don't see it necessary or smart to do 5 of them right now. I say do 1, do Higgins, see how it goes, and then let's push the other ones and kind of see if
I
we
respect
need
that
them.
opinion, and we just didn't want to be the ones to choose the area. But I think you're right. We'll see how this one goes. I think it's important to have it at the Higgins Park. But because the cost isn't so exorbitant, you could do one a year or do it in a CIP. So we throw that out. Let's have a conversation. Let's hear from the folks at the July meeting and the August with the conversation. And we will not be personally offended to scale it back to the one we have and one more. That's up to you. But I think that that's a very good point to be made. But I think it's imperative to have it as part of the park.
No, I agree. And so if you can just get me the number.
Sure.
Actually, one more question.
John he's looking, he may even be able to have it when he can give it under my manager
Is the
report.
Higgins Park one going to be the exact same size and layout as the other ones? That's going to be bigger, right? So that one's going to have a different annual cost. I'm actually more interested in the annual cost of the one at like Parkman. Or,
John can look it up because that had come up
Okay.
when we wanted to put in the budget. So when I opened it, I had money to actually have water in it.
Okay.
Councilor Hemler.
Is there a way to exempt it from the sewer? Because it's kind of like watering your lawn. It's not really going into the sewer. Is there a way to exempt it from the sewer costs?
John will look at that because it's a town facility. He can answer that.
Okay.
We'll get back to you on that.
Okay.
Anyone else on recreation? Kasia, you have one question with the pool. Is there a way to actually, with the pool, to use it longer where we can heat the pool? So if instead of opening up, in May, I know it's a lot of money, but I mean.
We can ask Donald to cost it out and get back
Maybe
to that.
some hot tubs.
No, we want people outdoors, and if it's a way we have competitions just don't happen in June, July, and August, right? I mean, they happen in September, and they do happen in March, so I'm just throwing it out there as, if we cut back one, maybe we do a little bit more, because I think it's a great idea, and we're going to have some competitions there. I think we got to be a little more flexible than just a couple months out of the year.
And that's why we did this early, so that we have plenty of time to get feedback from the public and to get your input, so we can adjust and pivot if we need to. And I think it's absolutely imperative, as the Councilor Sakala had said, to let people know that we're doing the public safety complex because we received the full amount of the cost from the state. And we're going to have to work hard. I've already told the chief and Aaron that that's going to be their full-time, part-time job, is letting the public know and come up with innovative ideas before the referendum to make sure folks know that. And that's why it's a remarkable occurrence that we would have been able to do that in such short time. But I always, checks in the mail and all, until we see it, until the governor tells us this is the amount and this is when you're getting it, there's a good chance that, I would say it's 50-50 at this time. We'll even have it on the referendum, because it was not our intent to say, well, we might get 12.8, but if we don't, you'll have to pay for the whole thing. We're transparent. We're not going to do that. We're going to know exactly what we're getting, and hopefully the only reason we propose it is my thought was, and also I will just tell you, we also submitted bond requests through both of our U.S. senators. We didn't just stop at the state. We were leaving no stone unturned, as John said, with the roads. We look for the money wherever we can get it. So our thought was we were going to get it fully funded from state or federal money, and we're still hopeful that that will be the case.
So in closing, before we will talk about this later, I think it's important, just one last thing, that people know that we actually are going to be meeting with the bonding agencies. So this will be presented to them as well. So this, again, as part of fiscal management, which was key when we passed JFK, they will have an idea. Maybe we won't know exactly what we're going to, but whether our bonding can handle the bonding rating. I know your meeting's the end of the month. We'll be transparent with the public. So again, we have the bonding power to be able to bond this out at very reasonable interest rates, which is a big key when it comes to financing these things, and reminding folks that we did this last summer, where we renegotiated our bonds, some bonds, for about a tune of $1 million savings. So this is constant management of our bonding money, and it's not just, again, we're looking to bond out 30 years, we punt it down the road. I mean, these are key when we sit in front of Moody's and Poor's and some of these other agencies when we're looking maybe to possibly increase our bond rating, which again would mean even more buying power, but at the very least maintaining our very solid bond rating. And we'll be completely upfront with people on that, because again, that's what you're really buying with these. All these projects are important. All 4 of them are. And then when you said, I hope everyone goes A, B, C, D, and says yes. And hopefully that's what happens. But I think that's a key point for people to realize that we're going through that by the end of the month. And we'll certainly let people know by the time either the public hearing and or the community conversation. So I think we're good. Thank you, Kasha. Sorry, folks, we don't have time. We are late, so we're not going to have time for a quick break. We're moving right into the public hearing, Neighborhood Assistance Act. Today is Monday, June 21st, 2021. It is 7:35, so we are a little bit late. This is the public hearing for the Neighborhood Assistance Act. Public hearing ground rules. A public hearing has been scheduled to allow interested citizens an opportunity to express their opinions regarding the 2020 Neighborhood Assistance Act proposals. Roll call, please, Sheila.
Councilor Bosco? Here. Councilor Sakala?
Here.
Councilor Crisati?
Here.
Councilor Hemler?
Here.
Mayor Ludwig?
Here.
Councilor Mangini? Here. Councilor Muller?
Four. Here.
Councilor Riley? Here. Councilor Riley, thank you. Councilor Surprise?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Suzak?
Here.
Councilor Ungary?
Here.
11 members present, none absent.
Thank you, Sheila. The following notice of public hearing was published in the Hartford Courant Friday, June 11, 2021, Town of Enfield legal notice. Notice is hereby given that the Town of Enfield Town Council will hold a public hearing in the Enfield Town Hall Council Chambers, 820 Enfield Street, Enfield, Connecticut, on Monday, June 21st, 2021, at 7:37 p.m. to allow interested citizens an opportunity to express their opinion regarding the 2021 Neighborhood Assistance Act proposal. More information can be found on the Town Manager website at townmanager@enfield.org or 860-253-6350, dated on June 11th, 2021, by Sheila Bailey, our town clerk. Ground rules for this public hearing: there's no time limit, but I ask that each person not take up too much time, so everyone has the opportunity to speak. After each person who desires has one chance to speak, we shall allow those individuals a second chance. After those individuals desire a second chance, we shall permit them a third, fourth, etc. Please refrain from personalities. I know, Chris, real quick, before we open, just a quick overview what this, and then we'll open it up. Anyone want to speak on this?
We don't have the staff people because we've done it every year, but it's the Neighborhood Assistance Act, and persons can come forward for applications and be heard, and there's no guarantee, but we have to have the public hearing, and,
Right.
and then we'll close it and see what we got.
So allows 501c3s or nonprofits to, take donations where that company can get a tax exempt for it.
Correct.
Yep. Okay, anyone from the public wish to speak? Anyone from the public wish to speak? Going a third time, anyone from the public wish to speak? I see none. I declare the public hearing closed. We move right into the regular meeting on Monday, June 21st, 2021. Again, this is 7:38, and prayer, Counselor Sakala.
Thank you. Because June is Pride Month and because we just celebrated Juneteenth, my message tonight is going to be simple. Be kind, respect each other, accept each other, protect one another, and love one another.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We're on to item 3. Roll call, please, Sheila.
Councilor Sakala?
Here.
Councilor Crisati?
Here.
Councilor Hemler?
Here.
You're going to do this.
Mayor Ludwig?
Here.
Councilor Mangini?
Here.
Councilor Muller?
Here.
Councilor Riley?
Here.
Councilor Surprise?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Suzak?
Here.
Councilor Ungary?
Here.
Councilor Bosco?
Here.
11 members present, none absent.
Thank you, Sheila. In case of a fire, item 4, fire evacuation announcement. We have doors, exit doors in the back of the chambers. Please go left to right in an orderly fashion out the doors into the parking lot, or to the doors to our left, to some folks' right through the doors. Again, the first door in the hallway, down the stairs, out into the parking lot in case of a fire. Item 6, minutes of preceding meeting, special meeting June 7, 2021. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
By Councilor Mother, seconded by Councilor Riley. Is there any addition, deletions, or corrections? Hearing none, by show of hands, all those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? 10 in favor and 1 abstention, Sheila. Regular meeting, June 7, 2021. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
By Councilor Mangini, seconded by Councilor Muller. Is there any additions, deletions, or corrections? Hearing none, by show of hands, all those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? 10 in favor and 1 abstention, Sheila. Special guest, we have none. We move on to item 7, public communications. Does anyone like to speak for the public? Again, you have to be an Enfield resident, and you have 5 minutes the first time. Name and address. Welcome.
Walter Cruzel, 21 Charlie Road, but today I'm speaking as Board of Ed Chairman of the Enfield Board of Ed. I want to thank you for your last meeting for approving our SRO over at JFK. It's very greatly appreciated that the council cares for our students and our schools, and the relationship we have between the council and the Board of Ed is very important and works great. And on second note, weather permitting, we will have a graduation tomorrow night at Enfield High, 7 p.m. The 12th graders or seniors will be walking down the hill to the field, and I will be handing out diplomas. So, God willing, the weather, you better work on me. You better work right today. But I want to congratulate the class of 2021 for their hard work and all they've been through this last 15 months. And they're celebrating their prom tonight. So, with that, thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak for the council? Anyone else like to speak for the council for the first time? For the second time? We're good? I declare public communications closed. We move on to item 8, councilor communications. Councilor Mangini.
Thank you. I also would like to congratulate our graduating seniors, Enfield High School. Certainly a lot of hard work and trying times, and I'm happy that they're going to make it tomorrow night. That's great. I do want to, through our mayor, present a question to probably town manager. I've been receiving inquiries about a blight issue, 122 Windsor Street, and I'm not familiar if there's an issue, but maybe we could look into it. And apparently hasn't been addressed, or it's being addressed and no one's responding. So maybe we can get an update on that. Thank you. Thank you.
Councilor Corsati, then Councilor Riley.
Okay. Once again, Mr. Cruzel mentioned about graduation tomorrow. Congratulations to all the graduates of the class of 2021. It's been a heck of a year for all of the students, and I'm sure they're looking forward to having their graduation. No virtual graduation this year, so it's pretty exciting for the class of 2021. Also, I'd like to give a special thank you to the Enfield Police, led by Chief Fox, and the Connecticut Corrections Department, once again in their support of the Connecticut Special Olympics Torchlight Run, which was held last Thursday. To see the chief running through, coming up Route 5 with the crew, it's pretty special. And it was a great event, and nice to see the streets were aligned with people giving support to the crew. And I know that they're very supportive of Connecticut Special Olympics and to our Enfield Stars team. This past weekend at Fairfield University was the Connecticut State Games. Enfield Stars did a fantastic job. And once again, thank you to all the volunteers. And the coaches wanted me to just mention to everybody here, thank you for the use of the annex pool for the past 6 weeks so that they could do some heavy-duty training, in which they did, and they all performed very well. So I just wanted to say thank you on behalf of Allied Rehabilitation Enfield Stars. Okay, and it was a great event, modified this year due to they put together the state games very, very quick due to the state being able to reopen. Still, everything was COVID friendly, and COVID protocols were used throughout the whole weekend. So it was great to see the kids being able to participate during that event. And one other thing that I'd like to mention, and it's getting to be a very exciting program, are the walking tours that are offered by Jim Malley here in town. It first started with the adult ed program, which he was doing on Saturdays and Sundays, but now he's extended his walking tours in July. I just want to give everybody, he does them in Thompsonville, Hazardville, and Enfield Street. They're fantastic. He's given tours to the Enfield Youth Services today in Thompsonville and in Hazardville, and he's also been giving presentations at the Senior Center, and they're well attended. And he's, matter of fact, tomorrow at 2 o'clock at the Senior Center, he's giving a presentation of Enfield history from the 50s to the 80s. And I know his last one that he did at the Senior Center, there was close to 40 people in attendance, which is, decent. But July 7th, July 19th, and the 28th, he'll be doing the walking tours in Thompsonville, Hazardville, and Enfield Street. And I know that I see a lot of people doing these walking tours, even on those hot days, and he does a great job. And, with the Economic Development Commission and Nelson, with a grant that he had to have Jim Malley present these tours, it's getting to be a very big highlight in town. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Mr. Jim Malley for the job that he's doing in promoting these beautiful areas of town. Yep. So, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Riley?
Okay. So I'm going to obviously echo what everybody else said and is probably going to say tonight, but congratulations to the class of 2021. We are so proud of you. You guys have dealt with some serious adversity here, and you pulled through, and you guys are going to go some seriously awesome places. So congratulations. I can't wait to see you guys walk down the hill tomorrow night. It's going to be awesome. I'm going to do a couple of shameless plugs here because yesterday was Father's Day, and I would like to thank two very special men in my life that make me sitting here possible. One is my husband. Happy Father's Day. Thank you for all of your support and putting up with the crazy hours and the back and forth and all that. And then the other person I want to thank is my dad, who is a resident of East Hartford. He doesn't even watch East Hartford Town Council meetings, but he watches every single one of ours. And he is sitting there right now at his house with my two kids and Grandma, and they're probably watching this and freaking out. So, hi kids and Grandpa, happy Father's Day, and thank you for all of your support and letting me do this. So those are my shameless plugs. So now on to the really important stuff. So this past weekend was the hazardous waste at Jablonski. I personally have hazardous waste to get rid of. I have some antifreeze and stuff. We went there at 11:45. There was about 4 of the cars out there. There just happened to be a wonderful woman. She was just a normal resident. She must have flagged down somebody there. Like there was a police officer, I think he was probably getting gas or something. And come to find out at 11:45, I don't know how earlier before that, but we were full. And we couldn't take any more hazardous waste. But there wasn't a sign out there, and I just got lucky that she was out there talking to somebody. So my question is, and I have a couple questions about it. Everybody's been home. They've been doing stuff around their house. can we make this hazardous waste pickup a more frequent thing? And or, since we're redoing the whole transfer station, and we've had some success in town consolidating things or whatever, can we make the transfer station kind of a one-stop shop? Because I also have four propane tanks that I need to get rid of, and it says on the paper, take them to the Weymouth Road Firehouse. Well, I've been to the Weymouth Road Firehouse twice. There's no sign. I don't know where to bring them. Do I call the firehouse beforehand and say I have 4 propane tanks to drop off? Or do I just go knock on the door? I didn't want to last time. They were having like a baby or a bridal shower there. So I'm wondering if we can get all of that over at the transfer station so it's a one-stop shop for everybody, and you know when the times are open, you know what to do. You pull up, you go to the station, present your pass, and you go through and you do your thing. But when there's other places that we go around town, it's like we give out, this is a thing that we do in Enfield, we give a lot of information out on where to go and what times, but then the next step of how does it happen? So where exactly do I go? Or, I didn't even know that you could be full up for the hazardous waste. So I guess if we could either rethink how we got the transfer station and add those things to it so it's all in one place, or if we could at least, I know we can make signs in town because we have them all over the place. So if we had a sign that said, it's full, so that people knew what was going on, that would be good. Or, if we came to drop off propane tanks, there was a sign at the station, and, go to the blue garage and drop them off here, or there's a sign that says drop off for propane tanks. So, those were some of the ideas I had, but it would be good because I had heard the four or five cars that were there that people were talking, like, why don't we do this more often? And I know it just came out of COVID and all that stuff, but I think we probably should do it more often because more people are redoing their homes, they have these things, and we want to be environmentally friendly. We don't want people dumping it in their backyard and their fire pits, burning it, or whatever the case may be. But that was just my thoughts on the situation.
Councilor Bosco.
Piggybacking off of what you said, I had 2 people that went there and got turned around. So I think we're going to have to probably do more time, but instead of just having a hazardous waste day, maybe we should pick a theme, because some of them have pesticides. And then and the problem is, I know it costs a lot of money, but the thing is, if we would have like a pesticide day or a paint day, that way you wouldn't have to have probably the experienced people involved in removing the waste all at the same time. You can get someone that knows pesticides, the paints and stuff like that. So I think a theme thing would be better. And that way, especially pesticides, you don't want that stuff getting into our groundwater. Anything with VOCs will eventually evaporate, but pesticides are just going to sit there and go down, and that's going to be a problem. So that was one of the problems, I guess, is they went there and there was no one there. It was full. Next thing, oh my God, I can't believe it. I got a blank moment. I never have a blank moment, but I don't know what the heck to say. So I got a Joe Biden moment. I'll get back to it.
Councilor Hemler.
The farmers market's been every Sunday, 10 to 1. I've walked down each Sunday, and it's really a good time. So I hope everybody makes it down there every week. Lots of vegetables, lots of arts and crafts, really fun time. July 3rd, we're going to have a parade. I hope everybody gets out because I want to see everybody. It's been a rough year and a half, so I think all the neighbors need to get out. Thank you.
Councilor Muller.
I'd like to say congratulations to the class of 2021. Can't wait to see you guys walk down the hill tomorrow. It's going to be exciting. I make a motion to suspend the rules and move items A1, A2, B1, B2, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, and Q to miscellaneous and proceed to vote.
Motion made to suspend the rules, second by Councilor O'Reilly. Is there any discussion on that motion? Hearing none by show of hands, all those in favor? Opposed, abstentions, 10 in favor, 0 against. Motion passes. All set? Yep. Counselor Sferrazza?
This is actually for the town manager. Tomorrow, Governor Lamont is poised to sign the legalization of marijuana. I think that's pretty much going to happen. I'm really, for those of you worried that I'm going to speak for an hour about the ills of it, I'm not. But, you know, I was just thinking about this, and, you know, doctors, they take an oath, right? And their oath is do no harm. Kind of makes sense, right? Government maybe should do no harm. To those people that believe that this is a good idea, the politicians up in Hartford at the legislature that said this is a good idea, I hear them say this is going to create revenue for the state. That's probably true. No one says, though, that we want to do this because marijuana is good for people. They don't say that. And if you look at the states that have legalized it, we'll go back to Colorado, just 2 stats. In 2013, 55 people died in traffic accidents that were positive, tested positive for marijuana. That's 2013. After they legalized it, that's gone up now to 138 people, because it makes sense, right? If you're impaired through alcohol, your reflexes are diminished, your reaction time's diminished, your judgment's impaired, same as marijuana. We just added to that. Hospital visits in Colorado went from 575 per 100,000 residents involving marijuana in 2000. The latest stat I could find shows that hospital admissions now for marijuana-related incidents has gone from 575 to 3,517. I know that nothing I can say can change what's going to happen tomorrow. I will accept it because I believe in the rule of law, and that's the law for now. With that said, and this is the question, Mr. Bromson and Mr. Talbert, I believe from what I've read in the newspaper, and I don't believe everything in the newspaper, but I think there is a small provision in there that allows towns to opt out of allowing the retail sale of marijuana. I'm not clear if that's true. If it is, I'm not sure if it's the council or zoning, but I would like, if you just look into that, tell me what the process is, and I would certainly urge all of my fellow colleagues here on this legislative body or P&Z, whoever it is, to not allow the retail sale of marijuana in this community. Let's do no harm. Thank you.
Thank you. You'll address that in the town attorney report?
I was prepared to, yes, in the town attorney report.
Yep, got it. So I think direction for the attorney. Councilor Bosco.
Yeah, I just want to inform everyone, we finally have the trash ordinance finished. And yes, Kasha, the second one is right. So Enfield businesses will be allowed to just go to the dump. So what I urge everybody in the next, I don't figure probably a week or two, we should be setting a hearing. And I urge everyone to read the ordinance, come to the meeting. It's going to be a little bit different way that your trash is going to get done, and it's a must. We have to relook at the way we're doing trash, because the cost to get rid of trash is just going up, and it's projected to get a lot worse. So I just urge everybody to keep your eye open for the public hearings, and come to the public hearings, read the ordinance, have your questions, and because something will be done shortly and you don't want to be left out. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Just Attorney Talbert, I don't know if you'll be able to piggyback off of Councilor Sferrazza. Also, there was a provision in one of the bills, I don't know if it was signed, that officer couldn't pull, or if they pull someone over and they smell marijuana, that doesn't qualify as probable cause. I don't know if you can comment on that, but just to throw that in when you get to your report. So I just want to throw that in off Councilor Sferrazza's question. And just real quick, again, I want to congratulate all spring athletes, especially the boys volleyball team that made it all the way to the finals Unfortunately, they did not win this title, but great achievement for our boys team to make it all the way to the finals, the state finals. I know the girls softball team made it as well into the playoffs, so did the boys baseball team. And congratulate all the athletes across track and field and all the other sports that are out there. And it's great to see our high school athletes compete at a high level and carry themselves with class. And again, I just want to, in closing, I want to honor an individual who just got named the Teacher of the Year. I'm going to just use his name, Mr. B, who, if anyone knows Mr. B at JFK, knows what a dedicated teacher this individual is. My daughter was lucky enough to have him as a teacher, and I know he does a fantastic job over at JFK. He's always involved in the kids' activities over there, and I personally got to see it with my own eyes. Congratulations, not a better individual to have earned the Teacher of the Year. Great job, Mr. B. Keep up the good work. Move over to the town manager report on item 9.
I have no items to report on. We, as you know, have renewed the projects and activities report. There's a wealth of information in it, so the council has that, and also we post it for our residents. There's a lot of information on all the goings-ons that affect the public in all of our divisions and major departments of the town, so I recommend that they take a peek at it.
Any questions for the town manager? Hearing none, we move right on to item 10, town attorney report. Attorney Talberg.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. Briefly, I just want to touch upon the recreational marijuana legislation that all reports are that it will be signed by the governor. It was approved by the legislature, and let me start with Councilor Hemler had asked a question before you did, Councilor Sferrazza, and her specific question was, can the council ask to be on the ballot to opt out of having facilities to sell recreational marijuana in the town of Enfield, or would you need to have a petition of 10% of registered voters? So the short answer is this. There are two opt-out mechanisms in the law. One, the first opt-out mechanism is 10 or more if you have 10% of the electors sign a petition, that can be on the ballot, and the town could opt out in that means. It wouldn't come from the town council. That would have to be a regular petition. But there is a provision, it's section 148 in particular. It states, any municipality may, by amendment to such municipality zoning regulations or by local ordinance, prohibit the establishment of a cannabis establishment in town. So in effect, through the zoning procedure, the town can opt out. Now, if the town doesn't opt out, there are two financial issues to be considered. If the town were to permit the sale of recreational marijuana, quite often when they open a facility like that, there's a big expense, there's a big rollout. And so the law allows that the municipality could recover the first up to $50,000 for, let's say you had an establishment open in town and you had to have police and protection, you could recover $50,000 in costs. And you could tax the product up to 3% of the gross receipts, and the town would be limited in how it would use that money for 7 different categories. You'd have to use that marijuana tax to fund improvements to streetscapes, education programs for youth, and there are a variety of other categories. So it's something that the town's going to have to deal with, whether it's up to the citizenry to have a petition, or it's whether it goes through the land use process. The bill just came through, and as you can imagine, it's part of a 295-page implementer, and there are provisions that impact different laws throughout. So we gathered up the most relevant provisions for this overview. We're going to do a deeper dive with regard to the zoning regulations. If it were to be a permitted use, it would be by special permit. And so I can't answer all of those questions just orally here. We are working on a memorandum and opinion that we will provide to the to all of you decision makers and the land use boards. With regard to your specific question, Mr. Mayor, I did hear something to the effect that police would not be allowed to use the odor of marijuana for probable cause. There are a number of other protections now built into the law. For example, employers cannot terminate employees who are using marijuana, except if there are a few exceptions. It's a game-changing piece of legislation that's going to impact our lives in myriad ways that some may not be anticipated yet, but it's something we're going to have to deal with once it's signed.
Thank you, Councilor Speraza.
Just thank you for that. That's what I was looking for. And a few other things people don't think about. How about all the money we invested in our drug dogs over the years? That's not going to work. And I got to tell you here, the scarier part, person swerving on the road, the officer believes he's under the influence of alcohol, takes him out, field sobriety test, slurred speech, glossy eyes, fails the test, probable cause, arrest, police station, ref test, and we go. There is no test for marijuana in Connecticut for the police. What are the police supposed to do here? If we have, I don't know the number, how many people died from alcohol-related deaths just in Connecticut. We just doubled that now. And I don't mean to go on and on because there's nothing we can do, but I just don't understand how we could pass a law, and I speak from experience, watching the people for 40 years that ended up on the wrong path in life, and not one of them ever said, I'm just going to start some heroin today. They started somewhere, and it was with marijuana. And to do it because we get money. Thank you.
Any other questions for the town attorney? So just want to be clear, you mentioned by ordinance. We are the ordinance body, not planning and zoning.
The law specifically says a municipality may, by amendment to the zoning regulations or by local ordinance. So we need to, I'll give you a formal written opinion on that. It may be that it could be the town council.
Right, because it's
I'm not
interesting.
sure. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because I'm hearing now all these ads on TV, and I try not to pay attention anymore to the TV, but when I do, of how bad vaping is for kids now. 5 years ago, vaping was in theory, the next great thing to get people off of cigarettes. Now, I'm assuming it's taxpayer dollar, but I don't have that information. That you were hearing ads running on all the time how bad it is for kids. Why doesn't anyone ever learn the lesson that's happening right in front of us? Where, same thing with opioids. When it was overprescribed and it caused the reaction that it did, well, then they turned the faucet off. And guess what? People got the more cheaper, dangerous stuff. And again, I'm not against marijuana for what people think I am. It's for what we just mentioned, the case studies that happened before us for the last 50 years, yet we've never changed the conversation. You tax marijuana, the cost goes up. The people who least can afford it go where they can get it cheap, which causes crime. And if the cops can't pull someone over for probable cause, that is a terrible bill. It's a terrible, whether you believe in marijuana or you don't, that's not even the question. It's what's in the bill. So if we can do it by ordinance, I would appreciate at some point letting us know. So I think, because that's a key little provision, what you read. And, that'd be something I certainly would be interested in.
Yeah, we'll follow up in writing with a formal written
Appreciate
opinion.
Councilor Bosco.
So I don't know what the makeup is how many, if we can count to 6 for an ordinance on that, or even making it, is there something that if, I heard something about if it wasn't if you got rid of smoking there, you could also get rid of the marijuana too. I heard something like that. I don't know how true it is, because now you're hearing all kinds of different things. So like a municipality, if you made where you can't smoke on a town green, and you made smoking illegal, then you couldn't smoke marijuana on the town green either. So if that's true, I'd like to look into something like that. And then the next thing is, how urgent of a situation is if we can count to 6 to make an ordinance like that? Because if someone beats us to the ordinance and we pass the ordinance after someone puts an application in, do they beat the ordinance or do we beat them? So I just don't know if we're first in line or they're first in line. Whoever's first in line, do they win? Or does it go to, once they put their application in, are they going to be able to approve it even if we say no?
Well, the legislation hasn't been signed yet, and so first things first, I can't answer that off the top of my head here, Councilor Bosco. The law says it will be effective July 1, 2021.
And the reason why I go there is many years in the 80s, we were going to have a toxic waste dump. And the town planner heard that through the chatter in the community that this toxic waste dump was coming. And they ended up passing an ordinance before they had placed the application in for the toxic waste dump. And when that happened, it made the toxic waste dump null and void because the ordinance was already here. But if he didn't catch that chatter, and they would have put the application in for the toxic waste dump, Enfield would have been Love Canal too. So even though that ordinance is not signed, if there's enough support with us, if we can start working on an ordinance as soon as possible, so as this ordinance gets signed, we're already one step ahead to beat someone putting an application in. That's where I'm going.
Yeah, we will follow up immediately, Councilor Bosco.
Any other questions for the town attorney? Thank you, sir. Item 11, report of special committees of the council. Any reports of special committees? Councilor Riley?
Yes, I just wanted to bring some good information up that we had in our last facilities meeting. We have from April of 2020 to March 2021, from the energy performance contract, we have $865,116 in total cost avoidance. And it's estimated to be the same next year for energy savings. So I thought that was a good thing to highlight on the energy performance contract that we passed as referendum. And then I did want to just reiterate, going back to the roofs presentation, when we talked about material shortage, right now there currently is a 16 to 20 week lead time for roofing materials. So, I mean, that's a long thing. So the more roofs we can get in the pipeline ready to go, is the less problems we'll have, because the next roofs up are Eli Whitney and Hazardville. So, we may have to make, Saturdays happen again, because they might end up into the school year because you just won't be able to get the materials. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Councilor Muller.
JFK, we meet this Thursday at 6:30. I was wondering if you had any luck getting them on to come in for a presentation.
I talked to the chairman, Randy. He had come in to see me, and we told him we would like him to come as a special guest, and he says they anticipate doing that. He's going to let me know the dates that they're prepared. They also want to go before the Board of Ed and make the presentation. So we had a good talk, and he's going to let me know what dates best for them.
Great. Thank you, Chris.
You're welcome.
Any other reports, special committees? Hearing none, we move on to item 12, old business. Item A stays on the table. Do I have a motion to remove item B from the table? So moved. By Councilor Muller. Seconded by Councilor Ungar. All those in favor of removing from the table by show of hands? Opposed? Abstentions? 11 in favor, 0 against. We are removing resolution authorizing the town manager to sign the Eversource 10 RFP bid affidavit for, it was tabled on June 7th. Kasha, we're removing it from the agenda. I don't know if you want to, anything you want to, I know this is your project now. Any discussion on, we're going to just vote this by show of hands off the agenda. We're not voting on the actual resolution. So we're removing it from the agenda. Any questions? Hearing by show of hands, all those in favor of removing from the agenda? Opposed? Abstentions? It's 11 in favor, 0 against of removing from the agenda, off our agenda, Sheila. So item B, 12B has been removed. We move to 13, new business. Item A, consent agenda, there is none. Item B, appointments by the town council, there are none. Item C, town manager appointed, council approved, there are none. Item D, P&Z commission appointed, council approved, again, there are none. Item 14, items for discussion. Items A1 and 2, B1 and 2 have been moved to miscellaneous. Item C, appointments, town manager, council appointed, there are none. Item D, under items for discussion, appointments P and Z appointed, council approved, there are none. Items E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, and Q have all been moved to miscellaneous. And we moved to item 15, miscellaneous. Sorry, when we get there. On the consent agenda, item A1, discussion resolution, transfer of funds for development services of code enforcement of postage for 2000, and discussion resolution authorizing town manager to sign application for enter an agreement with Lego Community Fund US for the Family Resource Center. It's an annual grant. Those are both on the consent agenda, item A1 and 2. Any discussion? Hearing none, by a show of hands, all those in favor? Opposed? Abstention? Sheila, 11 in favor, 0 against. We move on to B1, Inlands, Wetlands, Watercourse Agency. The term of Robert Hendrickson has expired. There's a reappointment. Do I have an appointment, please?
Yes.
Councilor
Robert
Muller.
Hendrickson.
Motion made, appointment made. Seconded by Councilor Riley. Do I have a motion to close nominations?
So moved.
Councilor Muller. Seconded by Councilor Riley. All those in favor of closing nominations by show of hands? Opposed, abstentions, 11 in favor, 0 against of closing nominations. Any discussion on the main motion? Hearing none, roll call, please, Sheila.
Councilor Sakala.
Robert Hendrickson.
Councilor Crissati.
4.
Councilor Hemler.
4.
Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Councilor Mangini.
Robert Hendrickson.
Councilor Muller.
4.
Councilor Riley.
4.
Councilor Srazza.
4.
Deputy Mayor Souza.
Robert Hendrickson.
Councilor Ungary.
4.
Councilor Bosco.
4.
11 in favor, none against, and no abstentions.
Thank you, Sheila. Item B2, Inland Wetlands Watercourse Agency, another alternate. Marie Pisner has expired. This is a reappointment. Do I have a nomination?
Yes, Marie Pisner.
Motion made. Seconded by Councilor Riley. Do I have a motion to close nominations? Seconded by, motion made to close nominations by Councilor Muller, seconded by Councilor Ungary. All those in favor of closing nominations by show of hands? Abstentions, 11 in favor, 0 against. Any discussion on the main motion? Hearing none, roll call, please, Sheila.
Councilor Sakala.
Marie Pisner.
Councilor Crissati.
4.
Councilor Hemler.
4.
Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Councilor Mangini.
Marie Pisner.
Councilor Muller.
4.
Councilor Riley.
4.
Councilor Srazza.
4.
Deputy Mayor Souza.
Marie Pisner.
Councilor Ungary.
4.
Councilor Bosco. 11 in favor, none against, and no abstentions.
Thank you, Sheila. We move on to item E under miscellaneous. Discussion resolution, request to transfer funds for Family Resource Center, $125,140. Resolved in accordance with Chapter 6, Section 8F of the Town Charter, the following transfers hereby made to the COVID-19 Fund Family Resource Center of $125,140 from the COVID-19 Fund Family Resource Center FRC OEC Summer Funding Grant of $125,140. Certified that the above funds are available as of June 21st, 2021 by our Director of Finance, John Wilcox, and approved by our Town Manager, Chris Prompson.
So moved.
By Councilor Muller. Seconded by Councilor Riley. Good stuff, pretty straightforward. I mean, yeah, I don't know if, Kasha, go right ahead.
Sure, good evening. So the source of this funding is actually the American Rescue Plan dollars that were awarded to the Connecticut Office of Early Childhood. So this is specifically, they have identified family resource centers as the vehicle for these dollars. This is for preschoolers who have been adversely affected by the pandemic, which means that they missed the preschool experience. So this big focus of this is doing a partnership between the ECDC, between Enfield Public Schools, KITE, and this will provide a 3-week kindergarten preschool readiness program for children in our community.
Very cool. Any questions for Kasha? Hearing none, roll call, please, Sheila.
Councilor Sakala.
4.
Councilor Crissati.
4.
Councilor Hemler.
4.
Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Councilor Mangini.
4.
Councilor Muller.
4.
Councilor Riley.
4.
Councilor Srazza.
4.
Deputy Mayor Souza.
4.
Councilor Ungary.
4.
Councilor Bosco. 11 in favor, none against, and no abstentions.
Thank you, Sheila. Item F, under miscellaneous, discussion resolution, request to transfer funds for development services of $18,274. Resolved that in accordance with Chapter 68F of the Town Charter, the following transfer is hereby made to development services, technology services, office supplies, furniture and fixtures, and technology equipment of $18,274 from building, other professional development, printing and reproduction, community development, professional development, advertising, planning department, copying and reproduction, historical district of advertising, inland wetlands, waterway advertising, planning and zoning advertising, zoning board of appeals advertising, agriculture, conservation, professional development of $18,274, certified that the above funds are available as of June 20, 2021, by John Wilcox, our Director of Finance, and approved by our Town Manager, Chris Prompson.
So moved.
By Councilor Muller, seconded by Councilor Riley. And pretty straightforward. I don't know if anyone has any questions. Kasha, go right ahead.
So due to the pandemic, development services spend less funding on legal advertising is really the big one, and travel and training. So this will be used, this funding will be used for, the biggest issue is filing. They have a lot of paperwork, so it's really, we're exploring different filing solutions, trying to figure out what they can do to make more space. They have just entirely too much paper up there right now. And another big piece of this is new plan review software. So they'll be able to look at these plans that are huge and hundreds of pages electronically. They're going to get the software and use two monitors, and all the building department, planning department, all of them will be able to utilize the software.
That's great. Any questions for Kasha? Thank you, Kasha. Hearing none, roll call, please, Sheila.
Councilor Sakala.
4.
Councilor Crisati.
4.
Councilor Hemler.
4.
Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Councilor Mangini.
4.
Councilor Muller.
4.
Councilor Riley.
4.
Councilor Safraza.
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
4.
Councilor Ungary.
4.
Councilor Bosco. 4. That's 11 in favor, none against, and no abstentions.
Thank you, Sheila. We move on to item G under miscellaneous. Discussion resolution, request to transfer funds for public works of $57,500. Resolved in accordance with Chapter 68F of the Town Charter, the following transfer is hereby made. To RRM operating funds, disposable services of $57,500. From RRM operating funds, salaries temp, shift, Social Security, and Medicare, $57,500. Certified the above funds are available as of June 11, 2021 by our Director of Finance, Jen Wilcox, and approved by our Town Manager, Chris Prompson.
So moved.
By Councilor Muller.
So moved.
Seconded by Councilor Mangini.
I think, again, it's self-explanatory. Donald is here. I think it's interesting. These two resolutions back-to-back really show that COVID had influence and impact in different ways. Some areas we saved, some areas we had to spend more. Some of these impacts will be known in the short term, and some won't be known for years. But in this case, in one matter we had extra, we put it to good use, and unfortunately in this matter, it cost us additional, and I think the memo says it, people were home, and there's just more trash because they were home and they weren't depositing it at work and going to lunch in other places. But he's available if you have anything further, but it's pretty cut and
Donna,
dry.
I'll give you an option if you want to say anything. You're welcome. No, you're good. Any questions from Town Council? Hearing none, roll call, please, Sheila.
Councilor Sakala.
4.
Councilor Crisati.
4.
Councilor Hemler.
4.
Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Councilor Mangini. Councilor Muller.
4.
Councilor Riley.
4.
Councilor Safraza.
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
4.
Councilor Ungary.
4.
Councilor Bosco. 11 in favor, none against, and no abstentions.
Thank you, Sheila. Item H under miscellaneous, discussion resolution, request to adjust social services contributions to boards, commissions, and agencies of $50,346. Resolved that in accordance with Chapter 6, Section 8F of the Town Charter, the following transfers hereby made. 2, Social Services Board and Commissions, Network Against Domestic Abuse, Amplify, ERFC, Community Health, Community Resources, Enfield People from Social Services Board of Commissions, the Food Shelf, Unallocated Funds, and Enfield Homefront of $50,346. Certified the above funds are available as of June 2nd, 2022 by John Wilcox, our Director of Finance, and approved by our Town Manager, Chris Prompson.
So moved.
By Councilor Mangini, seconded by Councilor Muller.
Again, available for questions, but basically in the budget, they've been funded, but they were then the new process we have, social services went through with the subcommittee and made the actual allocations. So this is to reflect what their desire was, although the budget amount stayed the same. But both Kasha and John are here if there are any more specific questions. Councilor Hemler had a good one earlier, and we shared it with everybody on the council. So if there's any follow-up, they're available.
Anything you want to add? Do you want to make sure?
No, I'm available for questions. Thank you.
Any questions for Kasha? Hearing none, you're off the hook. Roll call, please.
Counselor Sakala.
4.
Counselor Crisati.
4.
Counselor Hemler.
4.
Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
Counselor Muller.
4.
Counselor Riley.
4.
Counselor Sufraza.
4.
Deputy Mayor Souza. 4. Counselor Ungary.
4.
Counselor Bosco. 4. That's 11 in favor, none against, and no abstentions.
Thank you, Sheila. Item I, under miscellaneous, discussion resolution amending the senior center manager and recreations manager job descriptions. Resolve that in accordance with Chapter 7, Section 2 of the Town Charter, the Enfield Town Council does hereby adopt the amended job descriptions for the senior center manager and the recreation manager submitted on May 28, 2021 by Steve Belinda, our Director of Human Resources.
So moved.
By Councilor Muller, seconded by Councilor Riley.
Again, Steve is available. This, again, is just part of our new culture where we like to make sure that a person's job description reflects what they're doing. There's no budget impact here. As you are aware, in the last budget, we funded 2 positions instead of 3. When the senior center manager left, we were able to consolidate Mary Keller, make her the senior center director, eliminate another responsibility she had. That left a deficit in recreation where she was exiting, so Allison stepped up and we increased her pay to cover it. These 2 job descriptions now reflect what they're going to do, but I think it's another example of when you're given lemon, make lemonade. By doing this, we saved approximately $98,000 by eliminating a position. We're always willing to look and to pivot and to see what the needs are and to adjust accordingly, and I'm proud to report that Mary Keller is doing a very fine job at the senior center. I shared with all of you some comments we've received from volunteers there who were very impressed. I didn't doubt it for a minute. As I say, I look at Mary there and I think she's just the quintessential senior center director. She just embodies, I think, what a person should do, her attention to detail, her kind nature. And I'll tell you, it's difficult, her prior position. She was doing recreation, she's doing the senior center. And it's tough to serve 2 masters. And I like what my dad used to say, the bird sings sweet because it sings one song. And now that Mary's doing one job, she's making great music. So we thank her. And if you have any specific questions, Mr. Belinda was the author and helped them to do this. But it's a great result.
Steve, anything you want to say? You've been sitting here, so you're welcome to come up and speak. Just name and title. Welcome, sir.
Steve Belinda, Director of Human Resources, Town of Enfield. Thank you, Chris. Exactly how it played out. And I just want to give a recognition to the Professional and Technical Union because there was some impact bargaining that we had to do. We took a position and we took a non-union person and put it in a union position. They agreed to waive that. And I think it's because of the goodwill we have with the union and working together. And we work with Allison, who's the president of that union, and we have a signed agreement and we're moving forward collaboratively and in a positive manner. So I wanted to just give recognition there too.
Any questions for Steve? Yeah, this is one of those things, the little things that we've done so well over the last 3 to 4 years that really, to your point, these things don't show up on the balance sheet, but they really do in a different way. And again, you and your office, the human resource, again, just reevaluating what we're trying to achieve. And it's I mean, this is an unsung thing that's been so important over the last 4 years. So again, you're off. You're
Well,
in your office.
the town manager always impresses upon us, wherever we can prune, or anytime there's movement, a vacancy, whatever, we got to take a hard look and evaluate. And we're constantly doing it. It's a very dynamic situation, and we can't be stagnant. We always got to keep moving and seeing what's the most efficient way to run this organization.
I bet we've been close to 50, 60 job descriptions in the last 4 years.
Yeah, I believe it. There's more coming, probably.
Very cool. I mean, good stuff. I mean, it really is. It's one of those things, like I said, it's very important when it comes to just tweaking job descriptions, giving people a little more, again, sort of opportunity to be the best employee that they can be.
Yep.
Good stuff.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Roll call, please, Sheila.
Councilor Sakala.
4.
Councilor Crisati.
4.
Councilor Hemler.
4.
Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Councilor Mangini.
4.
Councilor Muller.
4.
Councilor Riley.
4.
Councilor Sofraza.
4.
Deputy Mayor Souza.
4.
Councilor Ungary.
4.
Councilor Bosco. 11 in favor, none against, and no abstentions.
Thank you, Sheila. So let me get there. It's a big one, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So I know when I get there, someone's going to waive the reading on this one, right? Discussion, item J under miscellaneous, resolution authorizing town manager to enter into a purchase and sale agreement. with
Mr. Mayor,
Bellsite
I'll stop you there. The town attorney has an updated report on that.
Sorry.
Yeah, if I could just chime in on that, Mr. Mayor. So there are two resolutions in the packet. One is would authorize the town manager to sign the purchase and sale agreement on the gymnasium at St. Adalbert. The related resolution is to settle the tax appeal. They are essentially part of a global resolution. The tax appeal is ready to go forward. We still have some work to do on the purchase and sale agreement. There are some terms we need to nail down.
So item J should stay
on the table.
Our recommendation is, item J should, but we would like to proceed with the next resolution about the tax appeal.
So unless anyone objects, item J will just move into new business next meeting. Any objection? No, I think we're good. We don't have to have, Sheila, we don't have to have a formal vote. We just basically don't move it. Right, it stays on the table. So we're moving J back on new business, Sheila. Okay, we move on to K, discussion resolution to settle pending property tax appeal, Bellsite Development LLC versus the town of Enfield. Resolved that the Enfield Town Council does hereby authorize the town attorney, James N. Talberg, or his designee, to settle the outstanding tax assessment appeal in the following action. Bellsite Development LLC versus the town of Enfield, docket number HHB-CV-20-606. 0339-S. The fair market value of the property known as 9 Alden Ave to be $1,104,903 for the grand list of October 1, 2019 and October 1, 2020, prepared by the Office of the Town Attorney on June 15, 2021.
So moved.
By Councilor Muller. Second by Councilor Riley. I don't know if you have any.
Self-explanatory. This is the proposed settlement that's pending litigation that we discussed in executive session at the last council meeting. Unless there are any questions, I think we had fully vetted that in executive.
Any questions for the town attorney? Hearing none, roll call, please, Sheila.
Councilor Sakala.
4.
Councilor Crisati.
4.
Councilor Hemler.
4.
Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Councilor Mangini.
4.
Councilor Muller.
4.
Councilor Riley.
4.
Councilor Sofraza.
4.
Deputy Mayor Souza.
4.
Councilor Ungary.
4.
Councilor Bosco. 4. 11 in favor, none against, and no abstentions.
Thank you, Sheila. Item L, under miscellaneous, discussion resolution canceling selected regular meetings in July and August of 2021. Resolved that the Enfield Town Council does hereby cancel the regular meetings of the council scheduled for July 19, 2021 and August 16, 2021, prepared by the town manager's office on June 11, 2021.
So moved.
By Councilor Muller. Second by Councilor Riley. It could be one of the best resolutions we put together in a year, right? Any questions? Pretty straight. Councilor Hemler.
I actually have a question. Since we have a question about the recreational marijuana, maybe it would be a good idea to table this till the July meeting, just in case we need a meeting? No?
I would say, with all due respect, staff plans their vacations on this, and you could always
Okay.
do a special, but I think it's appropriate for everybody to know, including council, that, that we're going to keep it in accordance, and if there's a special, that you need to do, you can get at least you together, but we wouldn't need staff. But it's important for them to know that.
Okay, I'm
that would be the
just
schedule.
thinking ahead. I mean,
Yep.
I'm
No,
not
I
saying I
understand.
would
that's
want
your
2 extra
decision, not
meetings.
mine. But I think it would be disruptive to a lot of
Okay.
schedules.
All right.
Any other questions? Hearing none, roll call, please, Sheila.
Counselor Sakala.
4.
Counselor Casati.
4.
Counselor Hemler.
4.
Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
Counselor Muller.
4.
Counselor Riley.
4.
Counselor Sofraza.
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
Counselor Bosco. 11 in favor, none against, and no abstentions.
Thank you, Sheila. Item M, under miscellaneous, discussion resolution authorizing the town manager to submit an application to the state of Connecticut for the 2021 Neighborhood Assistance Act. Whereas a public hearing was held on June 21st, 2021 to allow interested citizens an opportunity to express their opinion regarding which program shall be included in the town of Enfield's application under provisions of the Neighborhood Assistance Act. Whereas 3 proposals were submitted by the Hasville Institute Conservancy, Society, Inc., the Opera House Players, Inc., and the Enfield Conservation Commission. And whereas the following proposals are acceptable to the Enfield Town Council within the guidelines for proposed programs under the Neighborhood Assistance Act. Now therefore be it resolved, the Town of Enfield 2021 proposed program applications be submitted to the State of Connecticut Department of Revenue under provision of the Neighborhood Assistance Act and shall consist of the proposals identified in the preceding paragraph. The Enfield Town Manager is hereby authorized to submit these applications to the State Department of Revenue and to approve any donations received as a result of this application. Submitted on May 24, 2021 by the Town Manager's Office.
So moved.
By Councilor Muller, second by Councilor Riley. And we had the public hearing today. This is just a follow-up, and you see the 3 organizations. Any questions? Hearing none, roll call, please, Sheila.
Counselor Sakala.
4.
Counselor Casati.
4.
Counselor Hemler.
4.
Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
Counselor Muller.
4.
Counselor Riley.
4.
Counselor Sofraza.
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
Counselor Bosco. 11 in favor, none against, and no abstentions.
Thank you, Sheila. Item N under miscellaneous. Discussion resolution setting a public hearing for the proposed reconstruction and repair of various town roads and roadside elements. Whereas the town council would like to provide enhanced recreation opportunities. Oops, sorry, wrong one. Whereas certain roads within the town of Enfield are in need of maintenance, repair, and reconstruction. Whereas the Enfield Town Council wishes to provide funding for the maintenance, repair, and reconstruction. Whereas the Enfield Town Council wishes to seek input on this project from the public. Now therefore be it resolved, the Enfield Town Council does hereby schedule a public hearing to be held on July 6th, 2021 at 5:45 PM in the Enfield Town Hall Council Chambers, 820 Enfield Street, Enfield, Connecticut, in order to allow public comments on a proposed reconstruction and repair of various town roads and roadside elements prepared on June 15th, 2021 by the Town Manager's Office.
So moved.
By Councilor Muller, second by Councilor Riley. 5:45 is a good time, so hopefully we'll get plenty of time, which is a nice time to start. Any questions from anyone? Okay. Counselor?
Is this the community
No,
conversation?
it's a public hearing. Community
Is-
conversation will be in August.
Something separate, okay.
Yeah, it'll be in August. Any other questions? Roll call, please, Sheila.
Counselor Sakala.
4.
Counselor Casati.
4.
Counselor Hemler.
4.
Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
Counselor Muller.
4.
Counselor Riley.
4.
Counselor Sofraza.
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
Counselor Bosco. 11 in favor, none against, and no abstentions.
Thank you, Sheila. Item O, discuss a resolution setting a public hearing for the proposed recreation enhancements to Higgins Park and other town locations. Whereas the town council would like to provide enhanced recreation opportunities for the town residents at Higgins Park and other town locations. Whereas the Enfield Town Council wishes to provide funding for these recreational enhancements, and whereas the town council would like the public's input on the project. Now therefore be it resolved, the Enfield Town Council does hereby schedule a public hearing to be held on July 6, 2021 at 6:15 6:15 p.m. in the Enfield Town Hall Council Chambers, 820 Enfield Street, Enfield, Connecticut, in order to allow public comment on the proposed recreation enhancements to Higgins Park and other town locations, prepared on June 15, 2021 by the Town Manager's Office.
So moved.
By Councilor Muller, seconded by Councilor Mangini. Any questions? Hearing none, roll call, please, Sheila.
Counselor Sakala.
4.
Counselor Crisati.
4.
Counselor Hemler.
4.
Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
Counselor Muller.
4.
Counselor Riley.
4.
Counselor Sifraza.
4.
Deputy Mayor Souza.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
Counselor Bosco. 11 in favor, none against, and no abstentions.
Thank you, Sheila. Item P under miscellaneous. Discussion resolution setting a public hearing for the proposed roof replacement on various town and school buildings. Whereas the roofs on certain town and school buildings are 20 years old or more and need to be replaced. And whereas the Enfield Town Council wishes to provide funding for the replacement of these roofs, and whereas the Town Council would like the public's input on the project. Now therefore be it resolved, the Enfield Town Council does hereby schedule a public hearing to be held on July 6th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. in the Enfield Town Hall Council Chambers, 820 Enfield Street, Enfield, Connecticut, in order to allow public comment on the proposed roof replacement on various town and school buildings prepared on June 15, 2021 by the Town Manager's Office.
So moved.
And Councilor Muller, seconded by Councilor Riley. Sorry, who was that, Councilor?
Gina.
Councilor Sakala, sorry about that. Any discussion other than me messing up the second? Hearing none, roll call, please, Sheila.
Counselor Sakala.
4.
Counselor Crisati.
4.
Counselor Hemler.
4.
Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Mangini. Counselor Muller.
4.
Counselor Riley.
4.
Counselor Sifraza.
4.
Deputy Mayor Souza.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
Counselor Bosco. 11 in favor, none against, and no abstentions.
Thank you, Sheila. Item Q under miscellaneous. Discussion resolution setting a public hearing for the Public Safety Complex addition. Whereas the town has acquired property adjacent to the Enfield Public Safety Complex, and whereas the Enfield Town Council wishes to construct an addition to the existing complex to house Enfield Emergency Medical Services, upgrade the Enfield Police Department, and allow space for a regional state-of-the-art training center. Whereas the Enfield Town Council wishes to provide funding for this addition, and whereas the Town Council would like the public's input on the project. Now therefore be it resolved, the Enfield Town Council does hereby schedule a public hearing to be held on July 6, 2021 at 6:45 p.m. in the Enfield Town Hall, Council Chambers, 820 Enfield Street, Enfield, Connecticut, in order to allow public comment on the proposed Public Safety Complex addition.
So moved.
By Councilor
Second.
Muller, seconded by Councilor Sakala. I meant to go first to you. I apologize. Any discussion? I think it's my hearing in my left ear. Sorry about that. Hearing none, roll call, please, Sheila.
Counselor Sakala.
4.
Counselor Crisati.
4.
Counselor Hemler.
4.
Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
Counselor Muller.
4.
Counselor Riley.
4.
Counselor Sifraza.
4.
Deputy Mayor Souza.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
Counselor Bosco. 11 in favor, none against, and no abstentions.
Thank you, Sheila. Item 16, public communications. Again, there are none. We move to item 17. Any councilor communications? Councilor Crisati?
Yeah, through the mayor to the town manager. I meant to say something earlier. There's a sign out in front of Enfield Street School that's at like a 50-degree angle. It has a magic carpet and a drug-free zone. It's attached on one pole. It's kind of an eyesore, and if somebody could fix that, that'd be great. Thanks. Yep.
Any other comments from the town council? Hearing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
By Councilor Mangini, second by Councilor Ungary. All those in favor by show of hands? Opposed, abstentions? Good night, everyone. Have a great night. Enjoy the summer.